Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to week 7 here at Mid-League Tournament for Excellency Esports. My name is Lau Thoughts, and I'm joined on the desk by some beautiful individuals. We got Doctor, we got Mac Dewey, and we got Valley. We're going to be hopping into our final week of the playoff season here. Woo! And unfortunately for tonight, we do have the two last place teams fighting out for their final wins of the season. Last place Glacial Esports or Glacial Rising Phoenix has a chance to potentially bring themselves into playoffs if they're able to win tonight, and Catalyst Blaze loses their series as well. Meanwhile, South Dakota Coyotes, unfortunately, out of the race, but they're going to be looking to find a win for themselves, try and pull off one last victory before the end of the season, and no better place than facing off against the last place team here. Mac Dewey, I want to get your idea. We do have our predictions for the week already up on stream here, so yeah, an idea of what you're kind of expecting going into this first series, starting off kind of with the game of tonight and then across the board.
Well, I think we got to be careful with this week's predictions because we've got a very interesting case of the preseason patch on our hands, right? So it is just the items, and I think that the teams that have been able to really control their macro really well should still be able to perform. Glaive Black still has to be your favorites going into the playoffs, but honestly, for these middle of the pack teams, really anything goes. We have some controversy with the Catalyst Blaze versus Divine Ascension matchup, and with Alex substituting onto the Blaze roster this week, it could certainly be an interesting one. But our highlighted match of the week, Glacial versus the South Dakota Coyotes. I'm really excited to see both of these guys back on the Rift. I think it was Glacial that actually got the chance to play on the preseason last week due to a rescheduling, and I honestly wasn't really happy with what I saw, so I hope they come into this week with a little bit of a better understanding of what's strong right now.
Yeah, you make some great points. We were mentioning we have a little bit of a dispute on the desk here. Valley is standing alone as our defenders of Catalyst Blaze. Can we get a little bit of insight on what you're thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mac hit on it a little bit, is that this week Catalyst Blaze AD carry is feeling sick, so they've rescheduled that game, and they're subbing in Catalyst Frost AD carry, Alex, who, for me, from watching Catalyst Frost, is a star player for that team. He's a player that plays with confidence. He can play supportive AD carries. We've seen him on Ashe. We've seen him on Ezreal. We've also seen him on carries like Samira, Jinx, etc. He's got a play style that just exudes a confidence, and I think he could be the turning point. I think Divine Ascension, while they have proven that they can compete, that they're a little bit wishy-washy. They show up some weeks and they don't show up others. And with the inconsistency of a team going into a new preseason patch where they haven't really played together, those macro issues could start to shine through, and the confidence of a player like Alex could really just take Catalyst Blaze over that hump. I think that's going to really be the reason that they take the win in that matchup. We'll have to wait and see, of course, but I bet it on Catalyst. I think Alex is a key enough factor that he could make it happen.
Yeah, Alex is a scary player for sure. We've seen him on stream a couple of times already, and that man, when he puts on his carry pants, can do some work. But we got one last member of the desk here that we have not heard from. Doctor, give us the notes.
So, I had actually forgotten about that substitution when I made my predictions for Divine Ascension. It is a very strong pick, and I do think that Boris is having a field day right now. He's just raking in the gold. He's really, just feeling special. He's planning a trip to Bora Bora as we speak. But I don't think items alone make it the man, and so I think these teams really need to have it locked down as a cohesive unit. Like, yes, there are strong items. Yes, there are weak items. Certain roles are weaker than others. I generally overall think the teams that can make it work without a marksman bottom are in a really good position to really walk away with it. When we start bringing things like the Cassiopeia and the Ziggs down, who are a bit more benefited from the item changes. I think that teams like that style of gameplay will really start to pop off, especially when you get like bruisers in the mid lane. But I could see the substitution for Blaze working out. I don't think it affects their standings into playoffs too much. The biggest matchup here tonight is our featured matchup, which is Glacial Esports or Glacial Rising Phoenix versus the Coyotes. And I mean, I want to see the Coyotes succeed. I think them picking up a win here would be great for morale as we head into the next season. They'll have some time to practice on the next couple of pre-patches as we head into, like I said, next season. Hopefully come back stronger, hopefully come back more cohesive. But it all starts here tonight.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very interesting matchup, that's for sure. It is the bottom of the last two teams here, so it's a tough race for, at least for Glacial Rising Phoenix here, in order to try and bring themselves into this final playoff contention spot. Again, we do have to wait until we see if Blaze is going to be able to pull out that fat W later this week, because they did reschedule in accountants to their 80 carry being out. But we can run through the rest of the picks here really quick, and for the most part, the rest of us have kind of agreed. We think that Frost versus Goliath, it's going to go over towards Frost. We saw them play last week versus Glaive, and while they did get 2-0'd once again by that star team, they did put up quite a bit of a fight, at least the most fight that we've seen so far. So throwing it back over towards Valley, if you want to break down kind of the rest of your picks, I know that we heard from MacDo a little bit, but I think like Glaive and Frost are pretty clear to the rest of us, but I really want to hear why all four of us chose Glacial to win this week.
Yeah, I think for me, at least, coming in with Glacial is, I know 2 weeks ago, last week, I wasn't here, was kind of down in quarantine, had a fun time with that. But I know last week, 2 weeks ago, we got a third game with Glacial, and they showed a lot of signs of life, right? They came alive when they needed to come alive, and they had some star players pop out when we were maybe not expecting it. And I think going up against a Coyotes team that is 0-6, that isn't going to make playoffs, you talk about it'd be good for morale, but morale's already at that point where does this really matter to them? Are they really going to give their best effort in this matchup? Whereas Glacial actually has something to fight for, right? If they get the 2-0 here, they get a win, and they are able to find a loss for Blaze, right, against Divine Ascension, they can make playoffs, and they have a real shot at doing that, especially if some of the rumors about rosters switches up are true. I think it's definitely possible that they come out on top, and that the Coyotes just fall over and die.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough spot for Coyotes to be in right now. A whole lot of teams that end up on the bottom of the bracket don't necessarily put in their best effort, but let's get a diagnosis from Doc on why he thinks Glacial's going to pull it out tonight.
Glacial historically has shown that while they have been losing, they at least have a very cohesive unit. The South Dakota Coyotes, they're put on valiant efforts, but against a lot of the teams so far in this league, they've seemed to be a little bit outclassed on a personal level. We've seen the top lane attacked really, really hard. And I think from what I've heard, speaking with a lot of the heavy league analysts and things like that, is that the top lane right now is a war zone. Like, it is just absolute no fun to play against if you're behind. And I think that with something like that, where the top lane can potentially become a bit of a weak spot, even pre-patch, now post-patch, you really need to hunker down and get some top jungle synergy. And with Glacial having already played a competitive game on this patch, and the Coyotes presumably not, depending on what their other obligations are, then they could be coming in almost potentially blind, which when you open up that shop for the first time, you're just like starstruck. You're just like, what is this?
So
and just follow the recommended items. It'll be fine.
Yeah, Thornmill against Evelyn. So that's super cool. Thanks, Flowers.
But it's good against the 80 carry.
Yeah, so I think that, and I talked about this earlier in the week, that teams with more experience on the patch are going to do better this week in particular, because it is the first week. Once we head into playoffs next week, there isn't as many excuses of, I didn't get to practice the patch. I didn't, have as much experience as so-and-so team. Like, they had 3 competitive matches in these X leagues. No, it's playoff times. You need to get those solo queue games in, and you need to get everything else. But today, you get that one game where you're just like, I forgot shop was a thing. Like, my bad.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in going into the final game of the playoffs before we head into our final bracket here over at Mid-League Excellency Esports. Before we hop over to the analyst desk, as we're about 4 minutes out from our final series of the playoff series here, I quickly want to run through the line
season,
here.
Loud thoughts.
The regular season. Shoot, I
keep
can
saying
never remember.
playoffs. I got confused.
Playoffs.
Are we not in the playoffs?
No. Regular season playoffs. The playoff contenders series. We'll say that. I can pull it back still.
Yeah.
But with that, I
Glacier's
kind of want to
got a
go down the
chance.
board. I think we all agree that Glaive is kind of our number one team to expect winning here. They've showed dominance every week that we've had them on stream. They are the definition of our 2-0 Tuesdays here at Excellency Esports. But I want to get dark horse predictions from you guys more than anything else going into playoffs. I figured it out this time, but I want to hear going down the line. We'll start Valley and then go down from there and see. Who do you guys think is going to be the team to really watch outside of Glaive? Who do you think is going to be a team that might make that underdog story for us?
Yeah, I've got my eyes on Drift Esports. I've been a big proponent of their gameplay and their potential all season long. I've said, hey, they have brought good teams to long games. They've challenged Divine. They even had good early game against Glaive when they faced them, despite getting 2-0'd. They're a middle-of-the-pack team that I think if they start to get more of their macro together, they could really surprise some of our top teams, even a team like Catalyst Frost. Does that mean I think they're going to beat Glaive? No, I don't think anyone's going to touch Glaive. I'll be perfectly honest. They are above and beyond the rest so far in my eyes. But Drift is that team that I kind of expect to, surprise some people. I don't think anyone's really expecting them to do much, and they definitely could.
Yeah, I think my ultimate dark horse pick is Glacial Rising Phoenix. I think someone we can't forget about that's kind of gone under everyone's radar is Goliath. I think they could certainly make a good run. Frost has obviously looked pretty strong last week. They were able to really contest with Glaive, and honestly at this point, like with the preseason, with some of these teams still figuring out how to keep games alive, how to not give up too much, how to make comeback plays. We saw a lot of that last week where South Dakota and Glacial Rising, they actually struggled to finish off games a little bit despite having a very easy way, not necessarily easy, but a path to victory. They just weren't able to execute upon it, right? So I think we got a bit of a coin toss situation on our hands. Going into the playoffs, we have no idea what's going to come up, how these players are feeling behind the scenes, especially some of the teams we haven't seen in a little while. But Goliath is a team we can't forget about.
Okay.
Doc, I see you nodding your head over there. You got a varying opinion.
So, if we're going just by game score, how the games actually played out, if we're going by actual statistics, the only true dark horse team possibility is Catalyst Frost, right? Like they're the only team that brought Glaive Black to 30 minutes. Every other team was absolutely smashed by Glaive Black. And so we even heard it from Demon last week. Like they're not really concerned about any of these teams except possibly Frost. So I think with the other teams having, potentially one bad day away from being knocked out of playoffs, Frost so far has looked the absolute strongest contender for Glaive Black. And when you look at the numbers, when you're looking at this tournament page and you're seeing the scores against, the scores for, and how long these games actually were in match histories, it's going to be Glaive Black and Catalyst Frost in the grand finals. And Frost potentially has the upset. They had a really strong early game last week, and then it just kind of crumbled. So if they can shore up that mid game and late game, especially since these new items are super explosive and maybe we don't even make it to mid game, then they have a real shot at taking down Glaive Black potentially. But for right now, I honestly don't see another team competing.
Yeah, I mean, Frost has been the only team we've seen so far that has even put up a little bit of a contest versus Glaive, and I mean that's why we're going into this saying the dark horses, is because a lot of us here on the analyst desk here as shoutcasters believe that it is going to be Glaive that takes it at the end of the day. I think preseason has done a pretty good job of being able to shake things up across the board, though we are waiting to get into the first draft here. So while we have a little bit of extra time, we can kind of run through some of these new interesting changes that have been developing over the past week or so since we've seen the most recent preseason patch come out here. Damage is one way to put it. League falling into the Dota 2 trap of nothing can be OP if everything's broken. So that's just my personal
we've had two hot fixes, right? We had two hot fixes, which are typically saved for when just something's absolutely busted up or down. You know, we've seen hot fix buffs, but like we had the Ashe double dipping into the crit force, and then we had the Sunfire cape go out last night. So like, we all knew this patch was going to be a little wonky, and this is, I think, the first time Riot's actually been proactive about it. Like, typically preseason in its wonkiness kind of gets out of hand for like 2 weeks, and then they're like, all right, time to rein it in. This time, though, they seem on top of it.
And that's a really good thing, because it is, like Max said, it's damage across the board, but it's also, no one can figure out what does what, right? Like, if I've seen Graves one-shot people with just autos, and then I've seen Poppies not be able to die, and a Mumu solo and Baron at 20 minutes. I don't know what I'm looking at anymore, and I'm just confused.
I saw really a Baron with smokescreen.
Yeah, I don't like. It's honestly, there's so much tankiness and damage. It doesn't feel like anything really counters anything else, and everybody's just kind of like, either I'm going to delete you, or you're not going to do any damage to me whatsoever. There is no in between, is what it feels like. And so I'm very excited to see how this plays out, especially with not a lot of like, what's the best build being out there quite yet. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm also curious to see what teams play right around these items. Like, are we looking at team fight compositions? Are we looking at 1-3-1s? What is their strategy based on items and how they work?
Yeah, it should be a really interesting development. I'm personally keeping my eyes out on a couple of items so far, the ones that I've seen. We mentioned it earlier, Sunfire Aegis just got hot fix. That item completely busted for tanks. Eclipse, I think, also received a hot fix over the past week or so, because that item, ridiculous. But I want to get an idea, what items and champions that can benefit these items do you guys think we're going to be seeing coming into this first week of the preseason here, now that we finally have that patch live?
Mumu is still a champion that has not been nerfed. I think the nerfs are scheduled for this upcoming patch. So if I'm Glacial Rising Phoenix, or if I'm the South Dakota Coyotes, I'm slamming that a Mumu to hope for some magical victory. It can get shut down if you're not careful, but the Engage, the reworked ultimate, and the Sunfire Aegis just all working so well, and Conqueror was busted on him. Like, it's insane. He doesn't die, and he's taking care of the backline 1v3. That's one of the picks I have my eye on. But also the bot lane, what they decide to go with. I saw Azale tweeting about Nami being nuts. I would love to see that in action. I haven't been able to try that one out. And the ADCs, I think Glacial went into their Thursday matchup last week and kind of struggled with the bot lane matchup. It was still Caitlyn Lux, which isn't what I feel like is strongest right now at the moment.
I think AD carries, from what I've heard, I haven't played too much of the patch myself. I do think marksmen are inherently garbage. And I mean, I'm open to be proven wrong. I mean, last week on broadcast, I railed on the Hecarim jungle because it didn't quite work out in the beginning. Obviously, I ate my words, but sometimes that happens. I just think that for what the AD carries have to buy in terms of stats, critical strike, attack speed, things like that, it's just too expensive. And so you spike so super late in the game that, if everybody remembers the lethality Jhin Varus and then Ashe combo from like a year and a half ago,
sadly.
That's kind of what we're heading back into, at this point. We're seeing lethality Jins pop up again. Varus just traditionally does very well with that type of build. Ashe is an ultimate bot, right? Like you just build CDR and go arrow, go burr. And outside of that, you don't get a whole lot. You mentioned we're seeing Caitlyn Lux. That's just a strong lane. Like that even regardless of items is just hard to play into because of the way it plays. But I think like with the changes that AP items have had, I still think Ziggs is probably one of the best bot lanes you can pick up, especially with the more recent changes to his Demolish. He just melts towers, and with just billions of damage backing him up, it's literally paper mache. Like there's really nothing standing before him.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree a little bit, and I don't want to say disagree completely, because I agree with the fact that I don't think AD carry is as strong early game, which is why I think if, looking at tier lists right now, which I'm on like a million different websites looking at them as we speak, you're seeing a lot of lane bully champions and or hyper scaling utility based champions being closer to that S tier. Characters like Misfortune and Ashe, who are decent in lane early on, can survive lane, and then are just ultimate bots. Or characters like Jinx and Samira, who, while they don't have the weakest early game, they're more of that hyper carry. They get ahead, they scale, and they can just dominate a game, as what we're probably going to see in the bot lane. But my eyes lean more towards that jungle mid synergy, right? We're seeing a lot of Graves come back to the meta. Warwick, Kayn, we've even seen some Fiddlesticks. Hecarim and Nunu are still there, but we're seeing a mix of hyper carry and tank CC junglers, because those are what is really strong. Kayn specifically is really big, popping back in the meta. He can go two different routes with his tank build, going Gore Drinker into Death's Dance, which makes him incredibly tanky and hard to kill, or he can go into Blue Kayn and just dominate with assassin items like Eclipse, like Youmuu's, and just delete people with Collector. So I think we're going to see play through a lot of jungle top or jungle mid, and AD carry is going to be more of that weak side come this patch.
Valiant, yeah, I just remembered hearing. I think I saw it on one of the like Synapse clips or whatever. But Tiamat works with ADCs now,
yes.
And with Jinx, it's kind of broken.
It's kind of broken.
It looks really fun, and so I think we're gonna really have to pay attention to how these teams draft, because there's so much that works right now. It all depends on how you set yourself up for success.
Yeah, one of my personal favorite abusers of the new Tiamat actually is a top laner in the pick of Kale. You go the Riftwalker.
Oh gosh.
Into Nashor's into Hydra. Hit like 30% Omnivamp, clear waves like nobody's business, and you scale into the late game, and nobody can ever deal with you. And I think that in terms of like these range carries that we've been talking about, the personal picks that I'm looking for aren't these lethality picks. I mean, Senna with Eclipse is pretty strong right now, sure, but she is still considered a scaling pick. But the ones that I'm actually looking at are the likes of Vayne, the likes of Kog'Maw, these champions that can abuse the new Gunsu's Rage Blade, which has actually been quite a sleeper pick for the AD carry role itself. You go Kraken Slayer into a Gunsu's, and suddenly nobody can stand to take 3, 4, or 5 auto attacks versus you, because you do so much percentage health damage that you delete people left and right. But overall, the new patch should be quite interesting here. It looks like we're having a little bit of difficulty with getting this game set up for the series here. So rather than throwing everyone under the bus and making us talk about the new patch for hours on end, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to a quick spectator delay, or a quick delay, I should say, as we try to figure out what's going on with this game. Don't go anywhere, though, ladies and gentlemen. We got plenty more content and an exciting final series of the Playoff Contenders series, trying to figure out if Rising Phoenix is going to be able to make their way into the playoffs, or South Dakota Coyotes are going to be able to finally pull off a win for themselves. We'll see you guys soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We told you be here in just a couple of minutes as we're going to be hopping into pro draft of game 1 here between Glacial Rising Phoenix and the South Dakota Coyotes. We're hopping straight into the middle of this one. Already off the table, a couple of bans that we have talked about so far. We have Samira and Kale being taken away by the Glacial Rising Phoenix. That's not Doc. Alawi being banned away by the Coyotes.
It's almost like they were listening to the pre-show. Actually, now that I think about it, we talked about a lot of these picks coming through and being banned away, and it could be that the teams are actually playing the patch. That makes sense too. But I like to think that it's us and our big analytical brains, guiding the teams. But yeah, pretty standard stuff so far for what we're seeing in the patch. It does look like Twisted Fate as well, which is just a pretty stellar pick in general.
Yeah, the Twisted Fate pick, or ban away, I should say, here is pretty interesting to me. Trying not to give away that global pressure over to the mid laner of the South Dakota Coyotes. Mumu, we've talked about during the pre-show. We expected that one. Jin looks like it's going to be the final AD carry up on the chopping block here. We were mentioning that the lethality builds for that champion are extremely strong. The first pick is going to be actually locked in quite quickly here for the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix, and it's an Evelyn pick.
She's pretty nutty too. From everything that I've seen, just absolutely explosive damage, which she had pre-patch too, right? Like, she was still a pretty dangerous pick in solo queue and some competitive formats. So I'm not surprised that it's being picked up. Looks like Mac's gonna get their wish as well, with the Nami pickup as well. Maybe we'll get to see the true display of skill coming out of that character. And this draft is going pretty much how you would expect post-patch. We get the Ashe, the next in line after Samira and Jin are banned away. I am curious what Glacial are going to respond with if they do opt into that super hyper scaling option, or if they go for more of an even quicker lane bully.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Glacial here. Ashe is kind of the default AD carry at the moment. Very safe pick, especially alongside the likes of this Nami. I expect her to go the Moonshine support item in order to keep their entire lane fairly safe and healthy here. But, Ashe, a great form of engage, a great form of CC for the side of South Dakota Coyotes, and just in general, a very safe AD carry. So will Glacial be looking to pick up an AD carry here? I would expect so, unless they were expecting it to get pinched. Lucian, a great lock-in for Glacial here, because it is a wonderful flex pick. If they wanted to play it in the mid lane, they could, but if the Coyotes decide to, pinch ban the AD carry expecting it to go mid lane, they can always throw it down bot side as well, and it's not too bad of a matchup into the Ashe.
No, I mean, my biggest concern with picking a lane bully bottom side is the Nami mainly. You talked about how well she can stay topped off. Yes, Grievous Wounds is more accessible and, builds better now, but it's still a concern for the first few levels. Anything that you would typically see in like a Misfortune or a Lucian lane early on in the bot side, where you just play hyper aggressive, just burn, as much resources as possible, even using your health as a resource just to make sure that they lose even more. If Nami exists and is doing pretty well, it can really nullify all that. So I'm leaning towards it being a mid lane Lucian, but we're going to have to see what the Coyotes decide to swap up with. Darius being picked up for the top lane. Okay, I'm curious how that's going to play out. The blank band that you see on screen was Azir, by the way, who will be better after the next patch. But for now is still just generally strong.
Yeah, the Darius pick is quite an interesting one. I'm also curious about the Serath ban. Maybe these teams know something that we don't in terms of the strength of the mid lane right now. As far as I've seen, a lot of the items for the new patch have been fairly even across the board. There is a quite heavy emphasis on the new Luden's Tempest, not Luden's Echo anymore. But it's not like either one of these champions necessarily gets more advantage out of that item than the other. I suppose Zerath does. So some interesting bans coming out left and right here. Meanwhile, Aatrox has been banned away by the South Dakota Coyotes, a fairly safe top laner, someone who I have personally not seen in the most recent patch. I'm not sure how he fares. I know a lot of the bruiser items on the top line, especially that Eclipse, could be quite strong on him. Dealing percentage health damage gives him a lot more viability, as well as the huge boost in move speed would probably allow that champion to have some pretty pop-off plays. But Hecarim will be the final ban of this first game here as we wait for the Dakota Coyotes to lock in their next pick.
I'm starting to get interested. This Coyotes draft is starting to really pike my interest because you could assume they haven't picked their jungler yet. It could be that Volibear mid that we've seen previously when he was first released. He isn't quite back to being AP bear, but if you build him full tank, he's had great results in the mid lane, especially if you were to go into something squishier a la the Lucian. Could really, really pop off and do well, especially with tanks now being nigh unkillable. And it would mean that it is Darius topside. And you can see the Glacial Esports are picking for that. They're grabbing the Shen topside. Does okay to bad into the Darius, but it's more about the map presence pick. You can submarine with it a little bit. You can keep your carry alive, whether that is the Lux, the Lucian, the Evelyn, or whoever their last pick is considering their draft is looking pretty squishy, and whoever the...
Ooh.
I'm lost, but I like it.
I am intrigued. What makes this so much more interesting is definitely the new itemization. I can imagine a Rift Maker on Vladimir is his first item pickup here. The Omnivamp on top of his natural sustain and healing has potential to pop off. And, Victor, as the final pickup here for the Coyotes, that is a champion that I do believe also received a hotfix nerf of himself. Recent changes coming onto that champion making him insanely strong. Since you no longer have to give up an item slot in order to get your upgrades, you just simply farm up the waves, show up in team fights, and eventually you'll hit all three of your upgrades. And you can start itemizing straight away into a Luden's Tempest. You can start itemizing secondary into a Lich Bane or into a Rabadon's, whatever you feel that you need at the time. And as you mentioned, Vladimir, my biggest concern with Vladimir is, as you previously said, anti-healing Grievous Wounds is so much more easily accessible these days now that, especially in the mid lane, the Oblivion Orb comes with the Grievous Wounds. You no longer have to build the full Morellonomicons in order to hit that anti-healing power spike.
Which is what a lot of people asked for when it came to that item, because when you compare to the other Grievous Wounds items, why do AP mages kind of get the short end of the stick? So it does make sense that that's more available. They did change the Victor passive just inherently. You no longer need to upgrade your Hex Core. It upgrades as you get takedowns. So that, I think on release of the patch, was pretty strong. I believe you are correct in that it was kind of hotfixed a little bit. Because it scaled very strongly and did just billion damage. Since then, I am curious because I'm assuming it's going into the Vladimir pick. So we'll be able to pick up that early orb, get the Grievous Wounds, and start really playing the push wave. And I think Victor, depending on how quickly they can stack up that glorious evolution, could potentially get push prio. With a Volibear jungle, you can really start to harass the enemy Evelyn. And depending on who gets that level 1, level 2 prio in the mid, Evelyn's either going to have a really good time in the jungle or just absolutely dreadful time if she's having to contest with Volibear, Darius, and Victor for the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, and Evelyn is one of those champions that kind of likes to farm up to level 6, get that invisibility, and then start being able to roam around the entire map unseen to the unpink warded eye. So if they're able to shut down this Evelynn early, Volibear, a great champion for being able to run into the enemy jungle, take some solid trades versus the Evelynn. Darius also, I think, is going to be another lane of contention for the side of the Coyotes here. They're going to be looking to shove in this top side, maybe play a top mid centric game here because they do have a lane bully in that Darius lane, and Shen isn't the best of matchups. He can mitigate a lot of time versus this Darius, but at the end of the day, his Decimate alongside of the spinning axe is going to be doing so much damage, and then once that bleed starts ticking down, there's not a whole lot that Shen can do, and both champions enjoy extended trades, but I think Darius tends to win that out in the long run because he builds more damage at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how we're going to shake down. I think the Shen overall, like I was saying, has just more map-wide presence, which will be nice because of how squishy Glacial is. But Darius kind of just wins games solo, right? Like, how often do you have that Darius go 4-1 in the top side and you just can't deal with them?
Yeah, and for a quick update for the audience listening at home, it looks like we did have an issue with the lobby once again, so we're resetting the lobby super quick. We'll be hopping into Champion Select, the real one, in just a second here, but hang with us. We talked a little bit about the mid lane, we talked a little bit about the jungle and top matchups here, but this bot lane is going to be interesting now that we know where this Lux is going. And, even then, there's an argument to be made that it's a Shen support Lux mid Vladimir top. I
was just going to bring that up. I
may be crazy, but like it's a possibility. So Glacial still has a few flex picks, even though we've already seen their entire draft.
So I do like that we were both actually thinking that, because it is very true. That could be the Lux mid Shen support. I'd be a little scared if I was the Nami heading into Lucian Shen. But I am almost more scared into Lux Lucian because you have that long range pick potentially. The light binding comes in. If it connects, especially post 6, you just get completely unloaded upon. And it doesn't matter how much you ebb and flow heal for, you're just turned into sashimi. So I think the Shen makes a good support. I think Lux is better here though.
Yeah, I do think that the Lux is definitely a more solid pick when it comes to the bot lane support. We are going to be hopping into the actual draft here, so we will see where this Lux and Shen end up going at the end of the day. I think it's pretty straightforward for the Coyotes here. Overall, though, I kind of want to get your idea of what are these teams going to be doing from a gameplay standpoint. What are they aiming to do as this game plays out?
Yeah, so we can start on blue side. Glacial, they have a lot of post 6 power. They have the Evelynn, the Shen, and the Vladimir. Like, they get so much out of their level 6 power spikes that they really can start either skirmishing by using the Stand United and the Evelynn to really roam around and try and pick people off in translation. Whether it is somebody rotating down for the Dragonflight or potentially catching out the enemy jungler, sneaking a Herald or something like that. That in and itself is a power pick and will continue to be strong throughout the entire game, because if you get like a 28-minute pick onto even Ashe or Nami, like you get so much more power into that next corresponding team fight. They definitely didn't neglect their team fighting potential though. So I think early on they're going to be focused on getting the top half of the map level 6. Bottom half of the map is going to try and kill as much as possible, with or without the help of the other lanes, and then try and come together mid lane and death ball into just hopefully winning the game at that point. Whereas the Coyotes, they're a bit more solo queue-esque in their build path. They have a lot of strong individual picks. When it comes to getting them together, the biggest concern is that their 2 engagement potentials are the Enchanted Crystal Arrow and the Tidal Wave. Tidal Wave traditionally can be used much more defensively, trying to keep your carry alive when they do get jumped on, which is a concern with Shen Lucian. So I'm curious which way the Nami decides to go with that, with the more aggressive style, running forward to ebb and flow into Tidal Wave and things like that to potentially land the bubble and set up for the rest of the team, because Darius, Victor, and Volibear will do really well once the pick happens. They'll be able to apprehend them. They'll be able to, smash them with the Volibear, never move. It's not never move. It's Gravity Well, I think is the W called. and just really lock down that person. There's a lot of area denial with that as well, because you do get the bubble, the gravity well, the potential of a Darius. Darius just existing denies you movement on the map. So they're going to try and play around that and try and brute force their way into these objectives and force team fights whenever possible.
Yeah, it almost seems like it's a case of the Coyotes want to be set up at an objective before it spawns, and Glacial has drafted a team comp that wants to try and pressure them off of it after the fact. If Glacial is ever there to begin with, I don't really see how the Coyotes are going to be able to start the fight off on their terms. But Glacial does have means of being able to do that. They have the Evelyn pickoff. They have the Vladimir who can dash forward or just walk up aggressively, use the Hemo Plague, and then try and run through the entire enemy team with the help of the Stand United on whoever decides to be the frontliner for the side of the Glacial Rising Phoenix. But if you guys over watching here in Twitch chat want to let us know who you think is going to win, we're going to be right back in just a couple of minutes. But we'd love to hear what you guys think here as we're hopping into the first game of our last week of the playoff contenders series here between Glacial Rising Phoenix and South Dakota Coyotes. Mac, Dewey, and Val will be joining you for the actual game itself, and we'll see you guys in just a couple of minutes.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Excellency Mid-League here. We are going off here. It's week number 7 in Glacial Rising Phoenix. They're trying to work their way into the playoff picture, hoping that Catalyst Blaze get taken down. Where there is a will, there is certainly a way. In the South Dakota Coyotes, the Yotes are here to play as well, Valley. They're looking for their first win of the split, and we've got a preseason patch. Glacial Rising Phoenix actually were able to play their week number 6 match on the preseason, so they're a little used to how things are rolling, but this is the Yotes' first appearance, their premiere on patch 10.23, and they're bringing out some really strong picks. I'll be keeping a close watch on this Victor and the Nami. Who are you looking at, Valley?
I mean, I'm looking at Volibear Darius, right? South Dakota has a strong mid-top lane. Darius is an S-tier champion in the top lane right now. And Volibear, not S-tier. I wouldn't say he's the best jungler, but he's a really strong jungler, has a lot of CC, can make ganks happen really well, and combos beautifully with Darius in this early game. And on the other side, you've got an Evelynn. This is a champion that wants to farm up, that is going to be playing for level 6. I think the Shen and the Vladimir might have a rough time in this early game, especially if Envion can get up towards that top lane and really punish this Shen. This Darius can start to get out of control, getting items like Gourd Drinker and the like to really make him hard to kill, and that he does a ton of damage.
Yeah, going into this final week, 2 girls, 1 bush, looking to continue the strong performances on Evelynn. Kind of popped off last week. Really had a solid showing. Unfortunately, the Glacial Rising bot lane, that's really where they're going to be looking to improve. They went back to this Lux support pick, but they mixed it up. They're not going for Caitlyn this time around, going for the Lucian, which I think is feeling a little bit better with the new items right now.
Yeah, Lucian definitely better in the AD carry position as of the preseason patch. Was typically more of a mid-top lane flex during the regular season, but with a lot more survivability. Now we're going to see some trading in the bottom lane.
Level 2 was picked up, and that's going to burn the flash immediately out of Tenor Clef, and we can't get too excited about all these new item changes. It is super hype, but we gotta keep in mind the fundamentals of the game, what it's all about. The level 2 advantage in the bot lane.
The level 2 advantage is always super important in that bot lane, and I like to see the punish coming out from Glacial Rising Phoenix. This is what they need to be doing to show that they are worth a playoff spot, right? They're trying to make that contention happen. And if South Dakota wants to, play spoiler, if they want to deny that playoff spot from Glacial, they have to survive those plays, which nicely done by Tenorclef, holds the flash until absolutely needed, gets out alive, but that is still an advantage there, and it is a lane bully in the bottom lane. I mentioned it earlier, but these lane bullies are very much popular right now because, like you said, AD carries take a little while to get online, so you want to have a dominant laning phase to maybe get yourself going a little bit faster, and we're going to see that with the Lucian. There's just trading across the board. Honestly, I start talking and they start fighting. I don't really know, Mac.
Ender's got to be really careful. We do see Envion on the top side of this map. The junglers are going to be able to trade scuttles to start us off here, as Lux is still kind of good at this whole poking and lane thing. Not doing too bad. Luckily, the Yotes do have the Nami healing available, and Ashe is incredibly safe ADC, but we already see a bit of an advantage getting developed here early on. Onto this Lucian. French fries looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely farming extremely well, and it's just going to be that way for a little while, right? Until Ashe has that first item and can really be a little bit safer, or maybe spam those volleys a little bit more. She's going to have a difficult time in this lane. Well, it'll be interesting to see what she goes, right? A lot of people like to rush mythic items as that first item, so we could see an Immortal Shield Bow, but if she really wants to spam volleys, we could see an Essence Reaver first item instead. It's really up to there. Tenorclef is kind of playing with fire, though. Getting caught out of position. Nice dodge, though.
Gonna avoid the light binding. There is the Guardian proc. Gonna give French Fry the confidence to try to cook something up. Logs, though, dealing just so much damage. Gonna use the Ranger's Focus. Intoxicate getting quite low. Is gonna look for another root, but misses it. Logs pushing forward here. Gets the healing from Tenorclef. The first blood goes over to the Nami. The Lethal Tempo does proc, but he doesn't have enough damage coming through the mid laners. Now joining the fight here, the top lane. Ender's gonna interrupt him. Tenorclef all alone. John Stamos gonna flash
Telegraph
here avoids the bubble. John Stamos just needs a little bit more damage. Is gonna get that Q, and it's a 2-for-2 trade in the bot lane.
And that 2-for-2 is absolutely a positive for the South Dakota Coyotes. Unfortunately, both those kills go onto the Nami and not onto the Ashe, but nonetheless, the lane that you were losing, that you were massively behind in as far as the CS discrepancy, has kind of evened itself out, and that means this top jungle duo that is going to be their strong point of the map early on is going to be feeling a little bit better. They're not worried as much about losing that bottom lane. Young Wolf is searching out 2 girls, 1 bush. They know that they have this duo kind of locked down. Can't really do much as the Evelyn here except try to steal it. Isn't going to be the case. And they're feeling pretty confident in themselves up top. It's a little bit sad that the TP was wasted from Young Wolf. But again, I like the turnaround from Logs. Tenor Clef, got caught out a little bit initially, but then they overstep French Fry and Intoxicate. And they get punished by Logs with a nice Ranger's Focus, and he's able to do a ton of damage in that fight. Well played by South Dakota. That's the kind of plays we need to see from them if they want to have a chance to spoil Glacial's day.
And moving forward in this bot lane matchup, you've got Ender in the top lane, Valleys. Both Stand United and Teleport available. Remember, he actually landed the Shadow Dash taunt right onto Young Wolf as he wanted to join that bot lane fight. So TP advantage right now in favor. A Glacial Dragon has spawned and is out on the map, and maybe could be a potential macro move for the Phoenix here before Rift Herald spawns.
Yeah, I think South Dakota could absolutely go for the Dragon. It's not the most prevalent Dragon, right? It's still the Cloud Drake, not what we would call a powerful dragon per se. But it is still a macro move you can make, and I want to kind of put things into perspective here, right? Like, we can look at the South Dakota Coyotes and say, all right, they're 0-6. They didn't have a great season in the Excellency Mid-League. That's fine. But this is a collegiate team. Playing in these amateur tournaments, it's fun and it's cool to do and it's good experience, but it's not always something that is like, we really want to win this, right? We really want to be that amateur team, right? This is just better experience and more practice for these collegiate players as the CLOL season approaches is in the spring. And as, if they can start to come together as a team here, we can see more cohesive plays like we just saw in that last duel. They'll be feeling pretty good about themselves and their growth as a team.
Yeah, we do see most of these solo lanes shaping up pretty evenly. We were talking about potentially the side of Glacial Rising kind of struggling with not a lot of early gank potential. 2 girls right now looking, hunting, stealth right now. Alex Pie does have to be careful. No charm has come out just yet. The wave gonna be frozen in the middle here. John Stamos gonna take his time clearing this one.
Yeah, Alex Pie actually plays that really beautifully, is playing towards his control ward, knows that the Evelyn could be on the opposite side very, very easily, and instead plays, hey, I know where this Evelyn is not going to be, I know where my jungler is, and now Tenor is deleted.
There's no control ward there for Tenor. He gets taken down. 2 girls, 1 bush. Still doing a solid job here in the mid league on this Evelyn pick, and this is I think going to be Dragon here going over to the Phoenix side.
Yeah, it will be Dragon, and now that you've hit level 6 on the Evelyn and you're working towards that first item, it's going to be a different story as far as this jungle top matchup. Ender's still not going to necessarily be taking positive trades against Young Wolf. Does have the early Bramble Vest for some of those grievous wounds, but it's still a Darius, right? It's a level 7 Darius. That is not something that is easy to fight into at any point in time, but having an Evelyn that's hit level 6 and is now forcing them to buy control wards and being visible is going to feel pretty good.
Yeah, and I think right now Young Wolf, I wonder, could be going for the Trinity Force. The item pathing's still going to be a little rusty, or still a little new for us here in the booth. So we'll have to see, keep a close eye on those mythic components that do just define these champions' playstyles. The 2 girls, he does see the gank coming in. He saw the bear is going to be able to dash away there with the ultimate Ender, with a huge Stand United coming through. 2 girls really over aggressive there. Envy was in vision right there. 2 girls wanted to see if he could burst him down.
Yeah, testing their limits there. Really nice stand united from Ender to keep them alive. And is lurking around this mid lane. Wants to get Vladimir ahead, wants to get into that first mythic item. Is going to go the Rocket Belt. Is really strong on Vladimir for those dashes as a plate is picked up. But John Stamos can't be here.
Ooh, flash away. Alex Pie gonna actually pick up a kill. John Stamos!
He gets both.
Last caress not available for 2 girls, 1 bush. Gonna go back into the stealth. Gonna look for the hit spike. And he picks up the kill. John Stamos gets an assist as well.
And that's just poorly played from Alex Pie. He should have 2 there. Instead of dropping the control ward in the bush, he just walks forward. Evelyn gets invisibility back and then just deletes him off the map. So a solid 1-for-1 in the end. You're going to see, a kill onto the Vladimir, but he has a kill for himself. He's already picked up his Hextech Rocket Belt. So going to be hitting that power spike very, very early. And going to be feeling pretty good about yourself. Like you said, we don't know exactly what's going in the top lane for Darius. Could be going Trinity Force. I would expect him to be going Gore Drinker instead, as now we see a TP into the bottom lane.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow and the bubble. Rutro Intoxicate's in trouble. He's going to get shut down. Alex Pie picking up a kill on the Vladimirs. We do see Envion in the mid lane. John Stamos going to be able to Rocket Belt away from the bear. As we do see, Envion actually was able to pick up Rift Herald, and things not too bad for the Yotes.
Yeah, the Yotes are in a solid spot. They're up about 300 gold right now, and a decent portion of that is now onto the, onto the Victor, as this Rift Herald is dropped in the middle lane. So that's even more gold into Alex Pie's pockets, as this should knock down some turrets. Envion a little bit aggressive there, maybe over-aggressive, as 2 girls in 1 bush hops in to say, hey, get off my tower. And Ender,
the bleed. Oh no, the shield, he didn't get it. There was no shield. No, Ender. He's gonna get taken down. A solo kill going over to Young Wolf. Ender, solid performances last week on picks like the Aatrox, struggling on the Shen at the moment.
Yeah, and the Coyotes are showing signs of life. None of us predicted them to necessarily win this, but they are playing through their solo lanes really, really well.
Yep.
They're doing in the bot lane what they needed to do, what we talked about. They are surviving, and they are playing the game not to necessarily win lane, but to make sure that they are strong when they hit their first, second item spikes, and when they can get out of lane. They don't want to let French Fry get that far ahead. He does have a significant CS advantage, but he doesn't exactly have a huge item advantage and no kills on the plate for him. So they're still feeling pretty solid about that and the gold that they have in their pockets right now. It is the Triforce completed, by the way, for the Darius MacDewey. So a little bit different than the typical bruiser builds we might see from him.
Yeah, exactly.
But 2 girls and 1 bush is back in the mid lane.
He's going to have to play around this gravity field, and Alex Pie going to be able to walk away with the phase rush. Quite the strong rune. We were talking about it a little bit loading into the game. Definitely seeing why it was the right choice for this Victor, as he has met that 100 CS point as well as 2 kills. He's going to be getting these Hextech upgrades quite quickly, as 2 girls still trying to look in this mid lane. Can't land the hate spike to proc the charm. Is just going to have to back off here. Maybe. Oh, look at the bot lane here. Final spark coming in. Log's already so low. Gonna have to flash away. Meanwhile, Envion wants that turret. Tanks it up for himself. 2 girls looking for the flank here. Dragon has spawned. That's going to be another binding. And French Fry picking up a kill as 2 girls finally makes it past the gravity field. And that's going to be the last caress to finish off Alex Pie. 5 stacks on the Dark Seal for this Evelyn.
Yeah, and just overextensions from both the support and the mid lane there gets them caught out. These bindings are hitting from Intoxicate time and time again, and now with Final Sparks on low cooldowns, it is going to be very punishing. Something I do want to talk about is the Volibear item pathing. I know a lot of people think Sunfire Aegis is an incredibly strong item, and I don't disagree, right? But it has been hot fixed, and personally for Volibear, I actually like the Chem Tank item. For tanks, a lot better. It gives you an active with movement speed, basically a Scion charge that releases a large slow at the end. And you couple that with Dead Man's Plate and a couple of the other new tank items that give you movement speed as well with their passives. It is one speedy Volibear, as now the Drake is started up. John Stamos is here, but I'm not sure he wins this, especially with Alex Pie coming back.
French Fry does have that Kraken Slayer online. Logs with the Immortal Shield Bow. Stand United onto John Stamos. So much damage and a huge taunt coming in. French Fry does get stunned up here by the gravity field. The fight continues. This is the Darius joining the fight as the storm is brought on. Ender solo. French Fry just trying to kite around, but Young Wolf so much move speed. It's Duncan time coming through. That's a quick double kill for the Wolf here. The calling to try to ward him off. Some thunder noise being brought in, and the charm coming through. That's huge from two girls. French Fry.
Oh, the flash!
Trying to make it work. A double kill right now for the Lucian. Only the support stands. Meanwhile, it's a double kill coming in for Alex Pie. French Fry does have to be careful, is in hot water. It's a 2v1 situation. He's going to try to pick up the kill. The bubble lands. That's a triple kill. Going over to the victor. 5-2-1, and the ace coming through for the Coyotes. They get the dragon and the kills.
This game is so close, Mac Dewey. That's a 5 for 4. We see the play start out. Vlad just deletes logs, and you're like, okay, this could turn around. This could go well. The Stormbringer comes in. Young Wolf TPs and gets 2. And then suddenly we're thinking, all right, now French Fry with the culling. He's got 2. Can he get 3? And suddenly you look all the way back into the jungle, and Alex Pie is there just deleting people on Victor with his Luden's Tempest. He's 5-2-1 at 16 minutes. This man is a beast, and he is a character to be reckoned with right now. He is putting this team on his back in these fights. It's the story of solo lanes. It always has been, and I'm excited to see how this game continues to play out because we're going to get some action, Mac Dewey.
Right now, there's a 2-level advantage for this Darius, and not what you want to see for your Shen pick. Luckily for the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix, they do have quite the strong bot lane. 2 girls, 1 bush does lose a little bit of the Dark Seal stacks. Is going to look for a gank in the top lane. Young Wolf does get taunted up here. Going to pull 2 girls. Does land the charm there. Mid laners joining the fight. Going to have to watch out for the gravity field. John Stamos just going to be able to walk away 3-on-3, but the turret does go the way of the
Final spark.
That's another snare landing bot lane. Tenor Clef all the way down to half HP, but the Imperial Mandate completed. All of these mythic items, a mythic advantage at the moment, 5-3 right now. The Coyotes have to be feeling stronger.
Yeah, and I like the Imperial Mandate buy. It's one of the support items that I felt is the strongest, right? There are a couple support items I'm not a huge fan of right now, but this one is really, really solid because it gives you some of that extra bonus magic damage, and then when that mark that you put on them with your abilities, with your slows and immobilizations burst, it does so much extra damage. If you couple that with something like, oh yeah, the Yotes are in trouble. This is not good.
Oh, they
walk away, walk away.
Zender's gonna try to make a run for it. Logs, no! The ADC! This isn't the season for Logs to enjoy League of Legends. The shield bow isn't gonna be able to save him. He gets taken down, but it is worth. Look at the mid lane right now. Envion and Alex Pie tearing it open with the second Rift Arrow. They're gonna get a charge on the inhibitor turret. They're gonna inhibitor turret. Oh my goodness, wide open inhibitor, 18.5 minutes into the game. Was it worth for Logs? Maybe. He didn't even use his heal there. But the mental tax paid on the ADC, but they do get the turrets there.
I'd like to say I like the adaptation from Glacial, but the adaptation came too little too late, right? We're so far into the game. We're not that far into the game, Mac Dewey. I want to make this clear, right? The problem is the new items make it so that the game pace is that much quicker, and we're that much further into the game that quickly that, okay, well, 2 girls, 1 bush is dead.
Oh, the last caress? It's going to be enough. He's going to be able to walk away. Wow.
That's actually ridiculous. Unfortunate there for Envion and Alex Pie, but I like the play. But going back to my point, right? It's too late. You're like, okay, you're getting kills and you're making dives happen in the bot lane, but you had to wait for Eve and Vlad to come online, and you've already lost your top tower and your mid tower and both Rift Heralds. I like that they don't take the inhibitor this early into the game. That would just be funneling more gold into the pockets of Glacial Rising Phoenix. Dakota showing solid, what is the word I'm looking for? Not trepidation, but we'll go with that. Hesitance in giving over too much to Glacial. And They're just playing the game slowly and at their pace. They've put nice wards down around the Drake pick as we hit this third Drake. It is a Mountain Soul. They are all moving towards it. They know they don't have any sort of TP advantage right now. As Darius is actually going to head top lane, which I think is fine. Darius isn't really that great in these team fight situations at this point in the game. He's only got one item, but it is going to be a team fight nonetheless. His teleport should be up pretty quickly. Stand United is available as well.
Alex Pie so strong at the moment. Lich Bane completed. John Stamos gonna go for the backline access here. Gets so many members low, but Tenderclap, he stays alive. Everyone's trying to get onto the damage carries, but Envyon standing strong in front of him. The bear, not 1,000 Pierce today. He's gonna stay alive. I gets taken down. Young Wolf with the TP flank, making it work. Log's quite low as well. The Coyotes, they make it work. They get away with slivers of HP. Glacial Rising Phoenix, they just can't find the finishing touch.
The Drake and 2 kills go the way of the Coyotes, and that is beautifully played by them. They had all the vision control, they had the Drake priority, and they kite away effectively. Tenderclef has been caught out of position a couple of times in my mind, but he has made up for it with solid flashes and good healing CC with the ultimate, with the bubble. So is doing a fantastic job on that Nami and is showing why it is such a powerful pick. They walk away with a little bit of slivers of HP, like you said, but they get everything in return. 4-1-1 Darius, 5-2-3 Victor, and how they have side lane pressure, they have CC ability, and they have hyper carries in their tank banks. They also have frontline tanks and bruisers to play alongside of them.
Oh,
and
wow.
Now French Fry is just gone. What the heck?
Where'd he go?
I was staring at the item scoreboard and then he was gone.
The Lich Bane plus the Luden's Tempest, so strong, because you do get the additional magic penetration from this Luden's item, and if you're not building that magic resist, you French Fry's just not going to be having a fun rest of the game. He's got to worry about kiting this Darius, kiting just everyone really, and it's so hard, the amount of slows in the CC and even the move speed they can give Alex Pie. He's gonna, oh my god, John Stamos taken below half HP already in the Oblivion Orb. This is huge too, Valley. Oblivion Orb gives Alex Pie grievous wounds already.
Yeah, he's gonna have grievous wounds already, so it's already gonna be cutting down on a ton of healing that could come out. Not much healing on the board right now, but still a ton there. And if we look across the board, the only person with any really cut down on healing is the Mortal Reminder and the uncompleted Bramble Vest. So this Darius is going to be doing a ton of healing. This Volibear is going to be doing a ton of healing. And with Ashe and Nami on the side as well, it's a little bit shocking to me that we haven't seen that Oblivion Orb come out from Vladimir and Evelyn. And we do now see it on the Lux, so it is going to be at least picked up there. But is it too little too late, right? Because now the vision control that we saw in the river is being moved into the jungle. They're playing really well around their strong side. They've got Ashe taking turrets in the bottom lane, and they're camping in bushes. There's nowhere 2 girls 1 bush can go. They don't need control wards because they just know if you face check this bush, we will see you. If you start using a sweeper, we will see you. So you have to come face check us. Your jungle is ours. Your vision is ours. We give you nothing, and I love it.
This is where I was kind of hoping the Coyotes would improve off of last week's performances. They were able to pick up some leads in the early game, but weren't able to close out these games. Right now, they're playing very cleanly. As long as it's going to be able to walk away, has the shield bow, has the healing as well. Alex Pie, John Stamos, thankful for that untargetability from the pool. This looks like it's going to be another tower going the way of South Dakota. 5 members stacked here. They're just marching.
Yeah, and there's very little magic resist on the other side. There's armor, but there's not any magic resist. So everything Alex Pie is hitting them with is basically going through as true damage across the board. And that is a painful thing to not only experience, but to just witness. As 2 girls 1 bush is caught out, and Nami took the kill, but they're dead nonetheless.
Is the Evelyn invisible? I can't see her. Where'd she
she's disappeared. Well, I think she's learning that this preseason items are not so black and white.
Yeah. Yeah, Void Staff is an interesting pickup. Does give a lot of percentage magic resist. That's going to be picked up eventually. It's also an interesting build. I would have kind of expected the Luden's Tempest to be picked up by the Evelyn as well over the Riftmaker. Riftmaker, a big kind of I would kind of describe it as a more AP bruiser build, right? You want to be in these extended fights where Eve, I feel like it is more of a burst assassin going for these big backline moves. The Omni Vamp from that item though is very massive, as we do see this is the third dragon of the game, and this gold lead has just exploded for the Coyotes. Kill after kill in all these turrets, 6-1, and the kill score isn't even that large right now. The margin is quite close, and I think that speaks volumes to how well the Yotes have been playing the macro game.
Their macro game has been impeccable. They've controlled vision. They've moved around the map seamlessly, and as a group, they're always playing a 1-4. There's very rarely a 1-3-1, so they always have a protected area, and that means they can play to a singular strong side, right? You're seeing this vision being dropped in the top side. That means that Intoxicate, 2 girls, 1 bush, they won't have a jungle to walk into, and that even if they were to try to punish the person in a solo lane, that there's 4 people that can get there quickly and with all vision and all knowledge as fast as they can. Last Grass isn't going to be that very good, and you're dead.
The Stan that was through the Stan United!
Yeah. So here's my thing, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
So my argument was going to be that Riftmaker, as an item, grants all other legendary items 5% magic pen, which is good on 5%. Evelyn. Yeah, but the other stuff, not as good, right? It's not going to be as effective as now. Baron has started up. I would have liked to see Morellonomicon, but Alex Pie may have overstayed his welcome.
Is quite low. Log's quite low as well. John Stamos, so much move speed, just gonna run away from this fight. They're stalling. 2 girls respawning in 3 seconds. The Coyotes, they're gonna play this one safe. They do have a little bit of spending money in their pockets. Could be a good time to reset, refocus. They have the Mountain Soul available in just 3 minutes. They've been pacing the game so well. I'm glad to see them not force that.
Yeah, they didn't need to force anything there. They can go, they can get their item spikes. Like you said, Mountain Soul up in 3 minutes. They still have standing gold on the map as well. At any point in time, they could go and take the bottom and the top lane turrets, as well as that open mid lane inhibitor. Now you could take that and really create a lot of map pressure for yourself to not only move towards those top lane turrets, but also to play around Baron and force face checks, which is exactly what they want to do, right? If you have to face check into a Volibear stun or an Ash Arrow or even a Darius that's waiting for you in a bush at 4-1-1 with a ton of items, that is a scary prospect. It doesn't matter if you're invisible, if they have all the vision control. And I am very concerned for Glacial at this point in the game, right? Evelyn needs to be ahead. She's not deleting anyone unless she's getting onto Ashe or Nami, and even then, Immortal Shield Bow and Nami heals are incredibly potent. And you're not deleting Victor. In fact, he probably deletes you before you even have a chance. Darius and Volibear are too tanky. All of your damage sources are getting kind of nullified by resistances at this point. And you're not building that many yourself. And that's my biggest concern, because how do you take fights at this point, right? You don't have consistent engage, you don't have consistent damage, and you have no way of really bursting anyone unless you find a massive flank. Their options are becoming slimmer and slimmer.
As we do see Ender able to shove in that bot wave, but the vision control, you've been mentioning a lot, Valley. I love to hear about it. It's been so well controlled by the Coyotes. We see the bottom side, barely any blue trinkets down there. They're going to be trying to make their way over. 90 seconds until this next Drake could be the Mountain Soul. And right now, a lot of big item completions coming through. And beyond on the Volibear, 3 items completed. Young Wolf, the Black Cleaver, and Trinity Force online. Alex Pie, 3 items. The gold lead, it's starting to stack up. Glacial Rising. Valley, what are you looking for them to do in this next fight around the Drake?
I mean, Glacial Rising just have to look for a steal at this point, right? I think you try to get a steal, you try to get some vision down for your Evelyn so she can go over, hit it with the E and the smite, and then last caress back over the wall and protect yourself. But it's going to be difficult. especially with Young Wolf walking through the woods. If you take a straight up fight, or if anyone gets caught out, it's going to be a very hard time. Because if we're looking at items, right, you've got an Abyssal Mask now on Volibear with its new passive, Unmake, as John Stamos is dead. He didn't even have time to respond. You can't click buttons that quickly. It's not humanly possible. But anyways, back to my point. If you look at Unmake, Abyssal Mask's passive, right, immobilizing a champion causes them to take 10% increased damage for 4 seconds. Couple that with the Imperial Mandate passive of if you immobilize them on Nami. If you get a Volibear stun into a Nami stun, it is going to do a ton of work, and we are going to see that right now.
Intoxicate gonna land the final spark. Tenderclef almost exploded too. Girl's gonna be able to finish him off. That's 2 quick kills going over to the side of the Phoenix. French Fry flashing away, but the Wolf...
Alex Pie is coming.
Stop hunting! Young Wolf picks up kill on the ADC, but the shutdown goes over to Ender. Meanwhile, 2 girls going to get zapped off the map. No. Alex Pie goes godlike, picks up 3 kills in the past couple minutes. A double kill there, gets the ace. Mountain Soul now in the eyes of Envion, surely gonna get secured here as the Coyotes controlling the map. Look at the damage!
John, buddy, you're 3 levels behind. You don't win that ever. I'm sorry, you just don't. As Alex Pie is just gonna clear the wave. They're gonna get the Dragon Soul picked up. Flash in, forces the pull.
Oh, he wanted that one. Oh, he really did. He's feeling good. He's got the Mountain Soul online. He's like, I don't see anyone who's going to be able to really... He doesn't think he needs to flash away in the near future. Baron Nashor is available. Teleport coming down. Ender looking for a flank. Alex instead going to run in the opposite direction, but I don't think he knows the Shen is coming. Ender, unable, is going to get spotted out there on the ward. In this very important victor, 10-2-4, 700 gold bounty on his head. He's going to be able to walk away.
Yeah, and that last fight we saw was an overextension from the Coyotes, and they still won it by a large margin. So it is not close. They have to make massive mistakes, and even flanks like the attempted teleport we just saw from Ender are being shut down by this masterful display of vision control that we're seeing from the Coyotes. And if this was the Coyotes team that we got to see all mid-league, if this is how they played all mid-league, I think they would have been a potential contender. Is now they have control over the entrances to Baron Pit. They burst this thing down very quickly. The only person that can face check right now is Lux, and she overstepped. She's going to die.
Intoxicate just going to throw in the final spark there, trying to look for the steal, unable to pick it up. Baron Nashor and the Mountain Soul now online for the Coyotes. Inhibitor open in the mid lane. Super minions are going to be starting to make their way into the Glacial Rising base, as only the Inhibitor turrets and the Nexus turrets still stand right now for the blue team. Right now, a 4-1, or really all 5 members right now for South Dakota on the top side of this map. Wanting to stay grouped up. Alex Pie with teleport. Maybe looking for a kill onto John if he overextends there. The Vladimir just gonna recall?
Yeah, just guarding from any potential flank is helping the super minions push in, but it's trying to play with this team. They have no reason to be in the mid lane or the bot lane. They can just play together and take this inhibitor for free. They say, hey, Glacial, you have to come fight us. If you don't, we win. And you're going to see that the Enchanted Crystal Arrow misses, but it doesn't matter. They're on the Nexus towers. Flash in, Envion starts it off.
French Fry already so low. Alex Pie finishing off John Stamos just so quickly. The burst coming through this. Victor so strong. French Fry somehow still alive, but it just doesn't matter. The dunk coming through. Everyone better watch out for the Coyotes. Here they come. A strong performance from the solo laners is going to propel them for a match victory, a game victory here. Can they close out their first match? Well, that's why we're here tonight to find out, Valley. But after this one, I'm feeling hopeful for the Yotes.
I'm feeling hopeful for the Yotes. I mean, we all predicted them to lose this match, but there have been roster changes for Glacial. They don't look like they have the same synergy that we saw last week and the week before. Sure. And the Yotes feel like they're playing together better. Like they have a solid read on the meta. They're playing through their solo lanes, through their jungle, and they're saying, hey, we're going to play supportive AD carry, supportive support, right? Passive support, and we're going to let our solo lanes carry the game. I mean, we look at Alex Pie at 11, 2, and 6. I'm gonna pull up the damage charts on my screen. It's not close, man. Like, I'm pretty sure if we combined all of the damage from the Glacial side, it still would barely eclipse that of what Alex Pie did in that game. It is absolutely ridiculous what he was able to accomplish. But for more of the breakdown on this game and what we can potentially see adaptation-wise from both teams going into Game 2, we're going to send it to the analyst desk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Analyst desk coming at you at lightning speed as I'm joined by Doctor once again. And we talked about it a little bit during the pregame. We talked about it a little bit during the analyst desk. Some picks to look out for. And we mentioned the Victor with the hot fix, and apparently it wasn't enough.
No, I mean, Alex Pie completely took over that game. And I could be the Victor itself. You know, the Victor was incredibly strong, just tons and tons of damage coming out. And you could kind of tell from the way Glacial Rising was playing that they were cognizant of the Victor scaling, right? Like, they were constantly trying to gank that mid lane. You pointed it out when we were watching the game on the replay feed, how much time Evelyn spent in that mid lane. There was one point right as the mid tier 1 went down where Evelyn had been in like bush lane for like a minute and a half and wasn't doing camps, wasn't ganking elsewhere, was just waiting for the perfect time to take out the Victor, gets a 450 gold kill, and then does Evelyn things, right? Like, it was something that they were aware of and tried to counteract, and Alex Pie just didn't have any of that nonsense and just carried the game to victory.
Yeah, and I mean, you spend a minute and a half to 2 minutes trying to gank Alex Pie over and over again, and he gets out scotch-free almost every single time, except for after that first tier turret had already been lost on the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix, and at that point, Victor's still able to roam. Sure, you get the shutdown gold on him, but it's a little late on that. The Evelyn ends up falling behind on a Volibear jungle who doesn't have the fastest of clear speeds. Sure, his clear is healthy, but it's not going to be, the fastest of cleared times. And so he falls behind in gold. He stays a little bit up in EXP, but what he does by doing that is he screws over John Stamos on this Vladimir who wants the levels, who wants the experience, and is no longer able to hit those later stages of the game because Evelyn sat there for 2 minutes absorbing EXP out of his wave. And so the Vladimir was no longer able to have the level experience over this Victor, and slowly but surely Alex Pie was able to hit those upgrades on his glorious evolution and just kind of took over the game from there. And that's kind of all she wrote for Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully that wasn't the only highlight lane for the Coyotes. Top lane also went extremely well for them. They blind picked the Darius, and then Glacial decided to pick Shen into it, which is a notoriously hard matchup. I mentioned in the draft phase, like, it's okay. Like, Shen has other utilities other than the lane phase. But lane phase is still a portion of the game, right? Like, you still need to get to level 6 first. And definitely struggled there. There wasn't one little weird play where Darius went to teleport bot lane in full vision of Shen, and so they just got taunted up. But then they won the trade afterwards, right? Like, you get the W, the Q, and then you pull them back in for even more damage, and you just win the lane. And later on, when the skirmishes were happening around the dragon, Darius was just so far ahead at that point. Had the completed items, was doing 1 billion damage, and was able to shut down and chop down a lot of people.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking about it on the analyst desk during the game as it was going, and we were saying, what does Glacial do here when they don't have a priority in the mid lane, they don't have priority in the top lane, and the Coyotes are entirely happy to play a weak side bottom side? You have the Nami who's able to use the Ebb and Flow to heal themselves. You have the Ashe who can use the volley to slow down the opponent, or the Enchanted Crystal Arrow to stun them up if they ever try and dive them alongside that tidal wave. Like, there's so many options for the bottom lane of the Coyotes to play safe here. And then you have just such power picks in the top and mid lane here. Victor always is going to get the shove on there. Darius wins that top lane matchup time and time again, and it just really set the tone for how that game played out in terms of Vladimir and Shen can never get off the floor. Meanwhile, Lucian doing his best to try and play aggressive in the bottom lane, but even during the early game, that first blood that we saw, a teleport came out, and just like that, it was a traded 2-for-2 at the end of the day. And that doesn't really favor the Glacials by any means necessary, because when you start hitting those mid game, the mid game portion of this game, and your Vladimir and Shen are already so far behind because they don't have any kind of priority, don't have any kind of lane potential. What is Lucian going to do when he's only trading even in the bottom lane?
Yeah, I mean, he started to scale a little bit and was picking up some nice kills on bot side, thanks to the assistance of the Lux, who, was able to land the light bindings, and that's a very large portion of the kit. So the bot lane started to get moving, started to get rolling, and, gaining some momentum. But like you said, the other half of the map was in a bit of a well. And, as quickly as Lucian was trying to braid the rope of safety to get down to them, the rest of the Coyotes were just lighting it on fire at the same time. And so as we head into the second draft phase, I am going to be curious to see if that Victor actually does get banned away, because you mentioned that's almost a necessity. You have to ban that away. You can't let it go all the way through and be a counter pick at the end of the day. And the Coyotes are already, coming in a little bit different, banning away that Nunu wasn't banned away in the first game. And so we're seeing already adjustments come out.
I'm not entirely sure how strong Nunu is in the new patch and the new meta going in. I can imagine that he would be a great abuser of the new Aegis Sunfire. An extremely strong tank item gives you extreme versatility when it comes to being able to just survive fights. And he drops that absolute zero. It do amazing amounts of work with the burn damage, the slow, the survivability. Twisted Fate is going to be taken off the board once again by Glacial Rising Phoenix, something we saw being banned away in the last game. I would like to see maybe a couple more target bans towards the mid lane. Alex Pye had a phenomenal game in that last game, so we'll see the Victor being banned away here. And I think it was curious that Victor was able to make it all the way through the 5th pick. We were kind of talking about that a little bit for something that's so highly contested in solo queue. It's curious to see why they allowed it to go all the way to the very end there.
Yeah, and I think if it doesn't get banned here, I think the Coyotes could be feel pretty confident in first picking it pretty blind, unless they're only using it as that counter. But it is banned away, so the Coyotes are going to need to come up with a new game plan. Thankfully, there are still plenty of options. They're going to pick up the Evelynn this time. Does Glacial just pick the Volibear? It obviously worked for the Coyotes in the first game.
Maybe, but it worked really well for the Coyotes in the first game because they were able to keep priority through the mid and top lanes. I'm curious to see what Glacial is going to be picked up here. Personally speaking, I love so far what we're seeing coming out of this draft. I love the Twisted Fate, Kayle, and Victor bans. Kayle and Victor being two super powerful mid lane carries at the moment. And so taking away that scaling potential, that map pressure away from Alex Pye and denying him the ability to pop off with these super meta, super strong picks here is a huge pickup for Glacial. They are going to lock in potentially their bottom lane of this series. Lucian and Alistar being picked up. Of course, Lucian can still be flecked towards the mid lane. So we'll have to see where that pick goes as we continue on through this draft. But how is Dakota going to be able to answer here? I would like to see them pick up their AD carry and support as well, in fear of it being pinched out. But that's a Darius lock-in.
Yeah, I think the Darius worked out really well as a blind the first game, and you're leaving Shen open, so even though it was a pretty poor matchup for Glacial, if they believe in the global presence, which it kind of seems like they do, right? Like they're banning away Twisted Fate and taking, some lane-heavy matchups, so they kind of lean into that a little bit. They may risk it again, and this time try and just pay more attention to it up top side. I think that right here, I think their best bet's to pick a jungler, before that pool gets pinched even further, because that is pretty scary with it already losing the Nunu, the Mumu, and the Evelynn. You don't want to lose too much pressure, especially with how strong Evelynn can be. If they don't pick it here, then they can ban away the Volibear, they can ban away the Sejuani, really force you onto like a Graves or something, which while strong, is not a tank. And Glacial's actually going to get the Aatrox this time. It was banned away last game.
That's an interesting pick. I'm not entirely sure what Glacial has in mind for that pick up there. I I guess technically it could be flexed into the jungle as well as the top lane, or even the mid lane here. There's so much potential for this Aatrox pick. I wouldn't like to see it in the jungle. I've seen it a couple times, but it's not the strongest of pickups here. I personally, however, as an AD carry main and a Samira lover, do want to talk about that pick for a second here, because that AD carry has been the glorious redemption of the bot lane role that I have been looking for quite a while. You have so many picks across the map. Okay, hear me out. Give me my loud thoughts moment here, all right? There are so many champions in all the solo lanes and jungle roles right now that have insane mobility, insane protection potential, and so much just natural kit strength. Whereas Samir is the first kind of AD carry in a hot minute here that I think matches that level of aggression, that keeps up with that level of mobility and high tempo playstyle. Aphelios was there for a while, but he has a very stationary playstyle, and so he kind of relies on a team nonetheless. He needs somebody to protect him. I love that Samira has the potential to not only play with her team and wait for her team to go in, but if she sees an opportunity, she can make the big plays. She can be the star player that the South Dakota Coyotes are looking for when it comes to these mid-game team fights, if she can get an insane Infernal trigger and keep herself safe using the AoE wind wall she has on resetting dashes.
Okay, I understand everything you said. I don't agree, but I at least understand where you're coming from. I would just pick Ezreal. But
Ezreal's oof. Starting
like
tier?
No, I mean, well, not this patch. The new patch that's coming out, tier gets a little bit better for a number of reasons. Azir now gets to charge it on auto attacks, as well as, you know, the other benefits. But, you know, next patch when it gets a little bit of a boost, and then we'll start picking Ezreal again. But as this draft has continued, the Coyotes are just putting together an amazing team. Malphite, I believe statistically, is the #1 top laner at the moment, like bar none. And I'm gonna call it now, the Coyotes are flexing the Darius to mid lane, actually.
Really?
That is my opinion, because Malphite into Aatrox is brutal for Aatrox, and so I think that works out really well for the Coyotes, because if you notice, you know, the difference between game 1 and game 2, they didn't get a chance to ban the Aatrox after blind picking the Darius. So Glacial are coming in assuming that they've gotten that counter pick. They head into the second half of draft phase. They really pinched that mid lane pool, and so what does the Coyotes do? They just go, oh, we'll just pick a different top laner. So they pick that Malphite, this unstoppable force wall of armor, and it just obliterates the Aatrox. And Glacial, I don't think they've changed enough of their team. I think they're having a very similar problem from what we saw in game 1.
Yeah, it's an interesting team comp for sure. The Vladimir being picked up once again will probably have an easier time versus the Darius. Having a short lane and the range matchup for himself is going to be a huge benefit for the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix here. I'm curious about this Ivern pickup. It's a very niche style champion in the jungle. Not great at all into an Evelynn. If you're able to go through and do some counter jungling, take away camps from this Evelynn, sure, you have potential to be a nuisance, but it's a nuisance at best. It's not like you're going to be able to take any kind of one-on-ones. If Evelynn shows up in any kind of fight, you really have to respect the amount of damage that she's going to be doing, because Ivern is a supportive style champion, and so he has his potential, and it's always something that you have to have a lot of time and practice on before I would like to see it in these competitive games. But that being said, he does have a number of champions that would enjoy having an extra support on the team. Lucian likes to go in deep, so does Aatrox and Vladimir. So you have a lot of frontline members that this Ivern can kind of sit back and defend with. He throw the Daisy in and play Disruptor for the rest of his team. And they're going to be looking to play this very scrappy, very mobile team fight style of composition, where they want to be fighting you in the mid game, in the early game. They want to be going toe to toe because they have the likes of Lucian Alistar, where they can dash forward and CC you and get get those double taps off. Aatrox in the top lane constantly wants to trade, and Vladimir, while he wants to scale up first and foremost, he still enjoys fighting. He still wants to try and hit those mid-game team fights with a massive Hemo Plague.
Yeah, so going back to the Ivern, Ivern to me is the Yumi of the jungle. Just like omega annoying. Literally nobody enjoys having an Ivern in the game except for the Ivern player. And so there's just a lot of things he does that just are irritating, especially playing into him. You know, his shields are really annoying because they're actually really good, right? Like they scale super well. His itemization, post or pre-patch was, amazing. He was very supportive, sometimes building a lot of the same items that a Yumi would, obviously needing to buy boots because he can't just disappear from existence. But very similar build paths, lots of shielding, lots of healing, making sure that the rest of the team doesn't die and really accentuate their scaling capabilities. Post patch, I imagine it's going to be very similar. Looking at his team, however, that's where I start to kind of disagree with you. Like, yes, his shields are going to do, helpful for what the team wants to do in terms of going in. I don't think it's enough. I think that with the composition the Coyotes have put together, there's a ton of burst damage, and I don't think it's going to give them the opportunity to set up in time in regards to Glacial. They're really going to excel around the types of situations where they can set up first, where they can set up their own bush work and make sure that they are, in a position to death bush it essentially in, their own making. Like they can set up a bush line at the pixel bush and really choke out that dragon entrance on the red side. So, excuse me. If they can get to a site first, amazing. They'll set up bushwhacks. They'll use the Alistar Aatrox to really take control. If they are late, they don't have anything. They have less than they did last game.
Yeah, and I mean, before we throw it over to a quick spectator delay here, my final words for the South Dakota Coyote team, and you're going to hate me for it. Malphite Nami, Samira comp. That's all I'm going to say, man. AoE CC like that, they absolutely picked those last two picks here to set up the Samira to pop off. They're listening to the broadcast. They know I want to see this. So, it's going to be interesting to see if the Glacial Rising Phoenix are going to be able to hold off versus the terrifying engage CC Wombo combo composition that the South Dakota Coyotes have set up for themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen,
every member of the Coyotes can proc the Samira passive. Every single one of them.
Let's go, Samir, pop off! That's what I love to see! But, ladies and gentlemen, we have to wait to see if the game provides the Samira pop-off. Don't go anywhere, because in about 2 minutes here, we're going to be hopping back with MacDo and Valley as they bring you Game 2 of our final Playoff Contenders series here between Glacial Rising Phoenix and the South Dakota Coyotes. Don't go anywhere, don't touch that browser. We'll be right back.
Hello, Summoners. Welcome back onto the Rift for some more Excellency Esports Mid-League here. The Glacial Rising Phoenix, their season is on the line. If they lose one more in this best-of-3 series, their playoff hopes are gone, completely extinguished by the Coyotes, who are looking for their first series win. They've gotten this far before Valley several times, and against some of the better teams in this league. They took, I believe, Catalyst Frost to Game 3. So did Glacial Rising Phoenix. Both of these teams, they've shown inconsistencies, but the Coyotes in Game number 1, Valley, it was impressive.
It was definitely impressive. It looked really, really solid, and while I'm not as huge a fan of their draft this game as I was last game, I still think it's not bad, right? You still have a strong character in Nami. I think Evelyn can be very, very strong, but it does have some of the weaknesses like we talked about in last game. And you still have Darius as well as a somewhat form of wombo combo with a Malphite in the mid lane. I don't think you have as big of a hyper carry anywhere on the map, as though I know Loud Thoughts would disagree with me. I, for one, am not a huge Samira fan. Because she just feels like Katarina if you made her an 80 carry, and we already have Kaisa who does, the aggressive, multiple different play styles, hyper carry thing, and I don't feel like we needed Katarina as 80 carries. Now we're going to see a Bush cheese.
Logs does get knocked up here, but the healing comes through. Intoxicate going to have to back off. And this Glacial Rising Phoenix bot lane has been so aggressive, they were able to get a solid lead early on against Logs and Tenor Clef. On the Samira, it's going to be a lot less forgiving versus the Ashe if Logs gets behind once again.
I mean, you think that, but Lucian is actually a pretty solid answer into Samira. Yes, he can have some of his things blocked by Samira, but also Samira is very short range, which favors Lucian. As now we see the level 2 engage.
Once again, that's the first blood this time around. French Fry cooking up in the bot lane.
Yeah, French Fry was not letting the Nami walk away with a level 2 engage after a flash that time around. Is going to get that first blood early on, and that's what you needed to see, right? Like I was saying, Samira, not the greatest early on and has a ton of weaknesses. She can be fun to watch, but she's not the strongest AD carry. She's just annoying if she gets ahead and super weak if she gets behind. So I don't like that they picked a more hyper carry instead of the supportive style AD carry we saw last game. We'll have to see how it plays out as we check the other lanes, though. It should just be a lot of farming for both of these junglers right now. Some solid vertical happening from the Ivern at the very least. And in the top lane, it's just going to be poking back and forth. I don't expect we'll see any solo kills between these two with the amount of healing they both have.
Oh, the knockup coming through. Ender, very experienced on this Aatrox pick, as the junglers are going to meet here on the top side of this map. Envion going to be able to secure that Scuttle 2 girls. Unfortunately, going to have to walk all the way back down to the bottom side of the map to pick up this Scuttle. May look, though, pings on to the Krugs. Could look for a steal. Envion also answer potential with that move. We'll have to see where these junglers go next.
Yeah, and I like that Envion is trying to just get some solid pathing and go up towards this top side, plays around the Krugs. He recognizes, hey, they have to go down to my bottom Scuttle Crab. They'll have priority towards that sort of thing. They also have priority in the bot lane if they want it, so I really can't contest anything down there. Again, playing really well around their win conditions. It's a solo lane dominant style, and it's going into this Darius. Young Wolf not able to get out of that, though.
Oh, brought quite low as the gank in the bot lane. Logs knocked up here, press the attack, procced. French Fry just going to back off in the CS advantage. Going to start get racked up here as the freeze in the bot lane. Intoxicate and French Fry controlling this lane against Logs in Tenor.
Yeah, and we're seeing the difficulties of playing Darius into Aatrox with the lack of range. Aatrox can definitely keep you at a distance, and if he hits you in those sweet spots, it is going to very much hurt. As there you see, 2 girls, 1 bush just going to steal away the Krugs. Might run a Evelyn here. We'll see. It will be an Infernal Drake spawning first, so I expect this could potentially be contested, but there is no level 6 on Envion, so maybe doesn't want to make too much of an aggressive play just yet.
Yeah, John Stamos once again on this Vladimir pick. Had a decent showing, I thought, in game number 1, and it was a game of inches, really, around the fights, around Dragon, especially. I remember that one big fight where pretty much four members of Glacial, or the Coyotes, excuse me, were able to get away with a sliver of health. John Stamos just not enough damage with his ultimate, with the flank, to make that fight work. Glacial hoping to turn things around, keep their playoff hopes alive, excuse me. So their backs are up against the wall right now.
Yeah, and that up against the wall is where my concern comes in, right? Like, I have my concerns about the Coyotes drafting, as we see Tenderclef take some damage there. But I'm also very much worried that that back against the wall mentality will lead to desperation in some of their plays, right? We saw a little bit of it last game when they tried to make that play towards the bot side in the dive, and while they got 2 kills, they lost a lot for it. Now Envion is walking into this top side. It's just gonna allow some pressure for Young Wolf, who Young Wolf
he's gonna get brought back. There's the World Ender as well. Ender finishes off the Wolf this time around. Ender on his signature pick.
Yeah, and that's a mistake from Young Wolf, right? He played very well in the Darius last game, but when you get caught up in that chain by the Aatrox, you have to walk horizontally. You cannot walk vertically to try and get out of it. You will never escape. If you walk horizontally right away, you will get out, you won't get pulled back, and you won't take as much damage. Instead, he gets pulled back. The Evelyn's not level 6. Her gank was basically useless, and now we're sitting at about a almost 2,000 gold lead this early into the game for the side.
Look at the bot lane CS.
Yeah, it's a massive difference. Now 2 girls in 1 bush is playing aggressive.
The Ivern taking quite low, looking to take the explosive cone out, but doesn't go over the wall. It's gonna have to try to burn flash. But here comes Alex Pie with the ignite. Unstoppable force not available, but not needed, and Logs Valley is the one who picks up that kill. So important for the Samira.
Yeah, that is absolutely necessary. Really well done there by Alex Pie to roam down and to gift that kill over to the Samira. Logs is massively behind in CS as well as down a kill, so needs to get back on the board. There you see Young Wolf at least go horizontal that time, gets out of the chains, but is going to be feeling it against this Aatrox, who is, I'm pretty sure he's itemizing towards Gore Drinker, if I'm not incorrect, as Envion's going to make a gank happen.
John Stamos looking to get some healing back, does avoid the charm, gonna wait to use the Q, does get phase rush, I believe, there, but the last caress with the execute coming through. Envion 101 right now on the Evelyn.
Yeah, nicely done there by Envion once it gets to level 6. Really, really patient. You don't even see the unstoppable force come out from Alex Pie. Keeps that in the back pocket just in case it's needed. I like the patient play from the mid lane and from the jungle, right? The strengths of South Dakota are in their soul lanes and their jungles. I've preached it last game, and I'm going to preach it this game. Their bot lane is not where they should be looking to win the game through, because it is definitely their weakest lane so far. I think they offer value, but right now they are not going to carry this game. So if Envion can get ahead, if they can get, maybe a kill onto Young Wolf as well, they will be in a really, really solid spot to look for split pushing, look to push that macro and vision control that we saw from game 1, and come out on top in a 2-0.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see the Hextech Rocket Belt come out of the Evelyn this time around, and I really like that itemization choice from Envion. We do see the short shoes already completed, and I think the flat penetration is a lot better for the Evelyn pick as a whole, at least in this particular game, when you're going to be looking to just demolish French Fry, demolish 2 girls, 1 bush before the Ivern gets that important magic resist online. It's what Envion should be prioritizing, in the burst should really be immense, as we do see it is a 1.5k gold lead at the moment for Glacial Rising Phoenix. No dragons picked up just yet, but it is vision control dominated by the Phoenix at this moment.
I mean, you're fine with that, though, if you're South Dakota, right? If they're not going to take the Drake, that's just giving more time for Evelyn to come online, more time for Darius to hit his mid-game power spikes, as well as your bot lane to get towards theirs. So you're feeling pretty good about that yourself, because you need time. Nice gank coming in from 2 girls, 1 bush, but Alex Pie is tanky.
Envion is here as well. The pool gets John Stamos out, but 2 girls, 1 bush. Not as fortunate here, as French Fry is going to pursue out of the bush. The Aatrox teleport coming in, looking to pick up some kills. John Stamos going to take a turret shot to the face, unable to get that healing off on the Q. Going to use his ultimate there. That misses. In Glacial Rising Phoenix, they come up short there in the mid lane.
Yeah, nice return punish. Envion is where they need to be. Alex Pie makes a nice unstoppable force happen. John Stamos now in a little bit of trouble. The flash in forces a flash out, and it's just going to be a trade there. French Fry and Intoxicate are having the time of their lives down here.
Intoxicate looking for the dive. The culling comes out. Tenderclef going to be able to get a solid flash off. Once again, Logs, meanwhile, unable to trigger the Inferno. French Fry. Oh, no. He's going to get taken down. But it is a double kill for the Lucian. 2 girls, 1 bush in the area. Looking to pick up drag now.
Yeah, I mean, at least they get 1 back there in the end. That's about as positive of a play as they can do there. French Fry and Intoxicate juggle the aggro very nicely. They layer their CC and their damage, but it is still a nice survivability from Tenderclef with the flashes. Their flashes have been fantastic this game, but it is going to be that Drake taken in the bottom lane. We're looking at probably a drag soul now around 30 minutes if we keep up this pace, and Envion is making his way towards the top lane, trying to get some pressure here for the Darius to maybe even get onto a Rift Herald.
Ender gonna be able to flash away from that one. Envion still looking for the dive, though. The apprehend Ender able to get some healing back. The bleed as well. Actually picks up kill. Young taken down at the chest! Oh my goodness! Ender finishing off lives, no regard. 3-0 on this Aatrox.
Yeah, 3-0 on the Aatrox, and I'd like to say that was well played by Ender, but it was also massive mistakes from Envion and Young Wolf. The charm lands, they force out the flash from Ender, and then they still get him coming back towards, but the last caress is early. It doesn't get the execute damage off, and then Ender is able to land the chains, lock down Envion as they follow up, and turns it into a nice 2-for-0 in the 2v1.
What a play there. That's going to extend the gold lead. And Ender is going to be looking to pick up turret plates. No teleport available for Young Wolf. And this time,
Flash.
The fates have been reversed, but Alex Pie still consistent in the mid lane for the Yotes. 1-0-3 on the Malphite. He's still a threat here in this game. You took away the Victor, but you can't stop the Rock in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Pie is the consistency, right? You call him the Rock, but he is that rock for this Coyotes team. He is the foundation that all their best laid plans are going to be made on. And in the other side, it's Ender. Ender is carrying this game. Like, French Fry is playing well, but he gets bubbled up in the Samira once more.
The wave coming out. French Fry going to use the culling here. Tenderclef solo, trying to get that move speed, dodging around, bobbing and weaving. Able to walk away. Young Wolf joining the bot lane. Logs, no more Inferno trigger, loses the style S. Has to work his way back up here. The Immortal Shield Bolt.
Young Wolf is
gonna
deep.
buy French Fry some more time here. Young Wolf looking to get some more damage. The will is unbreakable from Intoxicate. And it's a failed play there, failed response there from the Yotes. Glacial Rising Phoenix, they're going to try to push their luck. They want to turn this one around, but they don't know the Evelyn is here first. 2 girls, 1 bush, going to get pulled in and obliterated. That's going to be a kill, but the Pulverize comes in as John Stamos looks to make
No
this
Infernal trigger
a
still.
good fight for the Phoenix. Can he get the healing? No, he's not going to use it. The trigger popping off. Logs helping out in the bot lane. Everything going the way of South Dakota. Alex Pie. Intoxicate, no unbreakable will. That's so much damage coming through. The Ignite gonna burn away. That's a solo kill going over to Alex Pie in South Dakota. They turn that one around.
Yeah, they turned that one around. And while you could make the argument that, hey, you could have just walked out if you're Glacial, they decide to take the fight. They managed to walk away. French Fry looking for more. Tenderclef is in some hurt. Teleport comes in, though. This fight is not done.
That's going to be a kill going over to the Lucian. French Fry, the latest addition to this Glacial Rising Phoenix roster, has been performing so well, but John Stamos used his teleport. He's caught out once again. The Vladimir pick not working out for him in game number 2. 0-3 right now, down in CS. Envion once again looking for a gank in the mid lane. Last caress available once again. The hate spike gonna miss, but the charm still lands, and that's gonna be the execute. John Stamos can't even stay under his turret.
Yeah, I mean, Young Wolf is going to be in some trouble here as well. Ender is 3-0 with Gore Drinker.
The fighting is non-stop between these two teams, and Ender just deals so much damage, but the third Q there, Valley, is going to miss. And it's going to be entirely on Ender and French Fry to really pop off here. And Intoxicate has to keep looking for those solid headbutt pulverize combos. We saw a 3-man knock up there, but the follow-up really just wasn't there from the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix. They got to be on the same page.
Yeah, and I do want to talk a little bit about what the state of the game is right now and what it means as we move forward, right? It's about a 2,000 gold lead for the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix. However, if we're looking at the game state, we've got an AP Malphite on the board. He's going to build Night Harvester, so he's going to have a bunch of damage in his kit for those AP bursts, as well as also going to have a bunch of extra move speed from the Night Harvester. This is your carries, right? If they're, excuse me, as another engage comes in, but Alex Pie is here.
He was in the pocket of vision, and he just deals so much. There's the synergy with the Samira. The Inferno Trigger not going to do a lot when the Alistar has ultimate. Intoxicate just landing all the pulverize you could possibly want, but it was the sneaky gank there. Alex Pie making the roams happen. Both of these AP assassins now at this point from the side of the Coyotes. Night Harvesters online, able to deal so much burst.
And I was going to say, until AP magic resist comes in, it's going to be a rough time, right? Yes, Aatrox is a strong character, and with the Gore Drinker, he's going to recover a lot of health. But that's easily abated by Oblivion Orbs, by Morellonomicon, whereas you need quite a bit of magic resist on characters that don't often build it in order to deal with this Evelynn and this Malphite. Darius is only 1-2-1. He's not that far behind. The Samira is 2-1-4. Despite the CS discrepancy, she still has her Immortal Shield Bow. She's still fairly close in gold as far as that difference. It's only about 1,000 between the two. You're going to be feeling pretty good if you're the Coyotes. And until you get some magic resist, John Stamos and Two Girls in One Bush are going to be having a brutal time. Case in point.
John Stamos just can't play the game today, Valley. First it was Victor. Now he's going up against the Evelynn. He has to worry about Alex Pie on this Malphite pick. He doesn't even have time to pool. He can't even. He has no shot.
I mean, I don't know why they keep picking him Vladimir. This is a character that needs so many resources in order to be useful. And you're putting him in the mid lane, which means it's going to be harder for him to escape things because it's the shortest lane. And it's going to be easier to get onto him. He doesn't have that much distance to play with. And he is not getting camped by a jungler. Ivern is not a heavy gank jungler. They don't have the early burst to deal with a Malphite as it is. He's never going to have the chance to come online. And at this point, with AP Malphite at 3-0-4 and Evelynn at 5-1-2, how do you play the game? You don't have Seraph's Embrace. There's no item like Immortal Shield Bow in the AP arsenal that can really help you get onto that level. I don't know what he's supposed to do. At this point, they just have to try and play through French Fry and through Ender in the top lane. But it's Aatrox. He can split push, but he's not the fastest at it. And while he can beat Young Wolf in the 1v1, he doesn't have any magic resist to really deny Alex Pie and Envion just yet.
And I'm looking at just the champions right now, and so something's standing out to me right now. Glacial Rising Phoenix, all of their champions have this little blue orb around them. I think it's for the Night Harvester in the cooldown. It's a champion cooldown, right? So we do see Alex Pie and Envion both with this item completed, but I think the cooldown works. It's like one and the same for both of them, I believe.
I'm not entirely sure how that works. I haven't really tested AP items as much. I tested the marksman items more than I tested the AP items. I'm not gonna lie, but it definitely could be the case. But it is definitely strong. You still don't have a mythic item built for the Alistar, while you have the finished Imperial Mandate done for the Nami. And again, we're seeing a little bit of a worse performance from Tenorclef, but it's Nami. Nami is incredibly useful no matter where you go. It's still about 1,500 gold difference, but it's even in Drake's. The only real difference is in the towers taken. And while Envion's going to get knocked up, he's not really going to be in that much pain, just going to walk away. And while I like the play from Intoxicate, isn't able to punish just yet. And interestingly enough, Mac, neither team is really playing around Rift Herald this game.
Yeah, we did see the Coyotes do such a solid job playing around that objective. in game number 1, but unfortunately, they've had to deal with this beast in the top lane. Ender for the unstoppable force. That's going to explode French Fry, but the immortal shield bow comes in huge. He's going to be able to get a cooling off. The teleport wave washes him away there. Young Wolf quite low as well. Ender is here for Glacial Rising Phoenix. This is who they've been waiting for to join these fights. He's doing so much damage. He's turning it around. It's a double kill going over to John Stamos, getting a little bit of income injection to help him out.
A little bit of income injection comes off a little bit of a feed. That is an aggressive tower dive. Alex Pie does not have the burst. Immortal Shield Bow keeps French Fry up alive. And once they are in, there is no way out. Now Ender is in here. The charm comes in. John Stamos will get shut down, but Envion is now going to walk away for his life.
Girls, one bush is here, lands the root. Ender's gonna fly in from the bush there, Envion. No ultimate, no flash available, is going to get taken down there. Ender 502, the carry top laner that every League of Legends player dreams of. He's popping off right now.
I mean, Ender is having a game, but his team is not making it easy on him right now as they keep getting deleted left and right. John Stamos got 2 kills in the last fight and still got wiped off the Rift by the Evelyn. He is sitting at 2 and 6, and he is not feeling it right now. And the difficult part comes in right now, right? Because we're starting to see second items, third items come online for some of these characters. Drakes are spawning. Team fights are going to be incredibly hard for both teams. On the one hand, how do you deal with Ender? Do you have that cut down? We're seeing the first Oblivion Orb come in for the Malphite right now. But on the other side of things, how do you deal with a split push, right? Neither team is equipped to split push particularly well. If you miss your wombo combo on the one side, you lose the fight. But if Ender dies on the other side, can you win? Can you keep your carries alive? Lucian hasn't been able to survive that long. Vladimir is getting deleted. There doesn't seem like good answers for either side, and it's going to become very chaotic very quickly, Mac.
We'll have to keep a close watch on these map movements. It was in our previous match here, the Coyotes able to move around the map so well together as a group. Always 3 or 4 members near each other, as we do see in the mid lane. This kind of formation continues to hold strong. 5 members strong in the mid lane. 6-2-2 right now on the Evelyn, 3-0-5 on the Malphite. And it's going to be on these engaged AP champions. Envion finding the picks he needs to. Alex Pie finding the big unstoppable forces. That's really going to help propel this team forward because they are facing a little bit of a gold deficit. And that's coming in the top lane and the bottom lane. A lot of damage from this Lucian, from this Aatrox. That's just so far ahead at the moment.
Yeah, and the Lucian is doing a ton of damage. But like you said, there's a gold disadvantage for the side of the Coyotes, but they also have a ton of standing gold still up on the map, right?
Yes.
It's really hard for Glacial to punish either of the side lanes right now. If the Coyotes wanted to, they could freeze in the top and the bottom lane, and it would be incredibly difficult for Ender or John Stamos or French Fry to even push up into them because that mid lane tower has not fallen. And on the other side of things, they still have 2 outer towers that they could push down themselves for the Coyotes. They have a ton of standing gold in those positions to really even up that scoreline. It's only about 1,300 difference right now. And again, Malphite and Evelyn are going to start deleting people. You're starting to see Oblivion Orb came in. Kempuck Chainsword is on its way. Or at least the Executioner's Culling will be in there for a while for the Darius. So he's going to have some of that Grievous Wounds as well. And on the other side of things, if you look down the line, there's 1 Grievous Wounds item in the entire group, and that's on the support.
Yeah, Glacial Rising Phoenix do have to keep an eye on Tenor Clef's Nami and the heals coming through there. Logs also on a different kind of champion this game. We were talking about a little bit earlier, the Samira, really far behind in terms of CS, but not doing too bad, 2-2-5 right now. Still gonna have to wait some time for this next dragon, as both of these teams playing very safe, don't want to lose this. Glacial Rising Phoenix, their backs up against the wall. Ender doing such a solid job in this game on his signature Aatrox, taking over the top side of the map, limiting Coyotes' ability to grab the Rift Heralds and really open things up. And Glacial, they haven't been punished as heavily in this game as they were last.
They definitely haven't. And one thing to look at while we have a little bit of a lull state here is that when you're talking about what the stakes are for this game, we know it doesn't mean anything for the Coyotes. They're kind of playing like uninhibited, as it were. They just get to play spoiler to the playoff dreams. But on the other side of things, Glacial Rising Phoenix, yes, they could make playoffs, but how does this performance against the Coyotes bear for their playoff chances? As now Envyon's looking for an engage, but gets knocked
gonna
back.
get caught out though. The pulverize coming up big. Last caress does buy him some time, but look at Logs. He's caught out. No style as he's still waiting, and Ender just dealing so much damage. Coming in, John Stamos just wants to leave the game, reconnects. He's back in the fight. Actually, he's just by Raptors. He's letting the team handle things. Ender's a huge monster, but Alex Pie, he's unstoppable. Goes on a rampage, gets a return kill onto the support. It is just a 2-for-1 trade here in the mid lane, but 4 members strong. Ender very much healthy. They're going to be able to march down this turret. Ender quite low though. Has to be careful about the amount of damage coming out of Envyon. The pool dealing so much damage. Young Wolf going to be forced to flash away, and Glacial Rising Phoenix, they're starting to find their wings in this game here. The charm does land. John Stamos looking to push ahead. The root does land. He's going to try to push forward. He's got to be careful, though. Going to be rocket belting away, and the pool just so clutch for him to be able to walk away. John Stamos really does have to be careful. So much burst, as we've been talking about, Valley, on this Coyote squad.
Yeah, and Envyon hasn't been able to find the proper angles right now. The Drake spawning in 20 seconds. We'll see another team fight. John Stamos dodges out on the hate spike, and Ender is sitting here on a flank on a control ward. They don't know he's there. Now Intoxicate goes in, and Ender has the world ender.
He goes godlike right now. French Fry trying to stay alive. Envyon gets stunned up, and that's a kill once again. Going over to Glacial Rising Phoenix. The culling dodge just away. Logs falling down are the Coyotes. That's 3 kills going over to Glacial Rising Phoenix. They're going to be looking to pick up their 3rd dragon of the game, Valley.
Yeah, and that fight, those fights are all super chaotic. They keep getting caught out and they keep overextending. You have to get vision control, area control, and make them come into you if you're the side of the Coyotes. They keep going into Glacial Rising Phoenix, and that's what Glacial Rising wants. They have Intoxicate it on the Alistar. They have an Aatrox who loves it when you walk into him. He's not going to have as good a time if he has to chase you down. And they are playing right into Glacial Rising Phoenix's hands, and we're seeing it unfold. 7-0-3 for Ender. He is having an incredible game, and you're seeing that there's so much tankiness, so much survivability, and when they're not playing these fights correctly, when they're not wombo comboing that unstoppable force with the tidal wave, and they're not setting up fights properly, that the Coyotes don't feel like they know what to do. They feel kind of lost, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, right now we do see a 3rd item coming online for Ender, still holding strong, a 2-level lead over Young Wolf, who just hasn't been having the same impact on this Darius pick as he did in game number 1. Alex Pie on the Malphite, a bit of a glass cannon in this one, only really does have the unstoppable force engage, not the constant flow of DPS from his game 1 victor. And right now, it's been Glacial Rising Phoenix who have been doing a solid job navigating these team fights. And they've got themselves a 4,000 gold lead. They were never at this point in game number 1. Things are looking up for them. Baron Nashor available, but they don't even have to force that. They have an Ocean Soul available in just 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, they can just play very slow, control the pace of the game. They've knocked down that middle inhibitor turret, so now they've freed up a lot of the map. You're starting to see their vision start to corrupt into the jungle of the Coyotes. We see wards around the middle lane. Intoxicate may have bit off a little bit more than he can chew here.
Does have Unbreakable Will, but just so much CC coming through. Not a lot of damage, though. We do love to see that reduction. The Cow's going to be able to walk away.
I mean, he's got a Negatron Cloak and the Locket of Iron Solari in his inventory. That's going to be putting him at about 75 magic resist, if not more. Excuse me, I did that math incorrectly. That's 80 magic resist. And so he's not going to take really any damage right now from any of the AP threats, especially since the Malphite didn't get anything with Pen. And while Evelyn did get... No, she doesn't have anything with Pen either, so they're not going to have a good time getting past those resistances. Ender, though, might be He's not going to be taking the tower anytime soon, but he's drawing a lot of attention.
Charm does miss, Enfion missing the hate spikes. Meanwhile, we do see Tenderclef getting locked down. French Fry already so low. Alex Pie in the middle of the team, but no one dying just yet. Ender goes legendary. He's on the back line, taking down the support. Meanwhile, the rest of the team coming up big. Ender finding a double kill. And things starting to go right for Glacial Rising Phoenix. Only 2 members left alive. Ender not dying just yet. Ender staying alive. Ender goes legendary. Is the Inferno going to trigger? No, the ace comes through. Glacial Rising Phoenix in the bot lane on the back of their carry top laner. They're staying alive. They're keeping their playoffs hopes alive. The light is still there. They're going to be moving over to Baron Nashor.
And the weakness of the Coyotes shows time and time again, where we saw them succeed when they had a lead, playing this 4-1. They don't know how to punish their own style. They don't know how to play into a team that wants them to engage onto them, and they don't know how to play into a team that plays a 4-1, that covers against their side laner, and they punish you if you try to overextend onto them. They're going to lose Baron. They're going to lose that bottom tier 2. They lost the mid tier 2, and they'll probably soon lose that top tier 2 as well. Everything is turning up Glacial Rising Phoenix. They have the Ocean Soul spawning in a minute. There is very little answers for the side of the Coyotes right now, and they are starting to roll over and die in this game too.
10-0-4 performance from Ender, coming up big. Just straight up buys a Sterax Gauge, by the way. Just slams it down, picks up a stopwatch as well, and Engage coming on to John Stamos. Going to use the stopwatch here, flashing away, has the pull as well, used his ultimate there to get back some healing. He's going to be able to get out as French Fry dashing away. Enfion looking for this kill, not enough damage, and this time it's the ADC who has the last laugh.
Yeah, desperation play from Envion and desperation plays from Alex and Young Wolf don't find them any results. It's going to be French Fry staying alive under his tower, not going to die to the Evelynn, and now there's no jungler for 35 seconds. That means a free Ocean Soul on an Aatrox and a Vladimir. I'm going to say that again, Mac Dewey. A free Ocean Soul on an Aatrox and a Vladimir. The Aatrox has Spirit Visage, which gives 100% base health regen. And he's got Gordraker, which gives 150% base health regen, and regen 12% of missing health. Look, what are you supposed to do? Tenderclef can't play the game. He's feeling like John Stamos in game 1 right now.
John Stamos, on the Vladimir skin, he's got the 4 ocean buff now. Gonna be walking down the bot lane here with Ender. Baroned up minions, going to start opening up this base. Young Wolf, you got to get back to defend. It's a 4v5 at the moment. The mid lane turret getting melted down here. French Fry is going to be able to finish that one off as the 3-2 push coming in. Intoxicate looking for a pick is going to decide to knock up Alex Pie. Unstoppable Force is used, but it's on the tankiest members. But meanwhile, John Stamos just gets deleted.
But Ender
quite low as well. Ender, the raid boss, still healthy. Still staying alive, gonna try to flash forward. The Infernal Chain's coming out. Tenderclef, meanwhile, looking for an engage, does miss the bubble. The inhibitor gonna get taken down. So many cannon minions, Valley. There's 5 of them in the base right now as the last caress is gonna get Envion out. Intoxicate in the middle of everyone here. Ender popping off, picks up another kill for himself. The Nexus turrets are falling. This is going to be the Nexus as well with Ocean Soul and Baron Nashor online. Ender going to try and slice and dice through the team one last time. He's able to pick up another kill to cap off his massive performance here in the do or die match. Glacial Rising, Phoenix Valley, they force a game 3.
Solo lanes, solo lanes, solo lanes. Play through your solo lanes this patch. That is the meta right now. It is not to play towards your bot lane. It's not to play lane bullies, especially if you can't play them. It's to survive your bot lane and to be useful with utility. You need to have a carry in your mid or your top lane. Alex Pie is this top performer for this Coyotes team, and they put him on a character that cannot carry. They gave Ender his signature champion, and he could carry. He showed that that's why you don't give him Aatrox, that's why you don't give him pressure, and that's why you don't give him carry potential. Well, I think if you take that away from him and you go back to playing through Alex Pie and give him a carry and get a better pickup in that top lane and maybe a more proactive jungler, this is a different matchup. But right now, Glacial has all the momentum. They fought back, they bit back, and they hit back hard.
We've got a series on our hands here in the Excellency Esports Mid-League. We're going to pass it back over to our analysts, Dr. and Loud Thoughts, waiting on the sidelines for us. Let's hear what they think.
Thank you so much, Mac Dewey, for that introduction. We are waiting on the sidelines as 2-0 Tuesdays have been finally conquered here by the Glacial Rising Phoenix versus the South Dakota Coyotes series coming in tonight. We finally have a 1-1 moving into game 3 of this exciting final series, and honestly, that game can be defined with a single word, and that word is Aatrox.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a reason it was banned in game 1. You know, I thought it was just because it was the Darius counter. Turns out not only is that true, but it's also a game counter, right? Like, just got so far ahead, was able to run around the map, just do everything you want out of your top laner, and it was super hard to take down on top of it. You know, we came in and we were like, oh, it's a 650 gold shutdown. If only, you know, the Coyotes can take that down, then all of a sudden they're back in it. And that just never happened. Like, there was never an opportunity for the Coyotes to just take over the game once the Aatrox got going.
Yeah, and, you know, we really got to give some props to Ender there, putting on a fantastic performance in the top lane. And I've never been a huge fan of blind picking your top laners, just because it's a risky business.
Yeah.
You can get counterpicked so easily in the top lane. It's always been the biggest complaint I know from any of the people that I've talked to who are top lane players, is that you can get counterpicked so easily here. And with Aatrox versus Darius, it's always been a back and forth matchup. It's always been a difficult one, and especially with Aatrox losing the revive on his ultimate on the World Ender, it kind of started becoming more Darius favored. But in this game, we can see what happens when an Aatrox is able to get an early lead for himself. Ender putting on a phenomenal performance on that top lane pick of his own, but we also have to give props to the rest of his team. I mean, John Stamos took a beating in the mid lane early game, but he still managed to come out of that game, even if not ahead on kills over deaths. And so that Vladimir pick, while we still have our confusion about why they're emphasizing this Vladimir pick, forcing it into the draft for Glacial Rising Phoenix, this time around it ends up working out for them, because we saw what happens when they're able to hit those later stages of the game. We saw what happens when this Vladimir isn't the number one priority for the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix. And, you know, Aatrox was kind of playing that front line for the majority at the time for his team when it came to those mid-game team fights. But Vladimir eventually came online, and when you have the likes of an Aatrox and Vladimir, and the only people on your team building grievous wounds was the Darius and Malphite, they're not going to be able to do the job in order to stop the sheer amount of healing, self-healing that these two carries were pulling out.
Exactly. And, you know, you really touched on it perfectly there. There was simply nothing to stop the Vladimir. You know, whether it was in lane, whether it was in the middle of the game in the skirmishes, or whether it was, you know, towards the end of the game when they started really being powerful, there was just never anything there. Like, you get a free lane because it's into Malphite. Yeah, you got solo kills under tower, but who cares, right? Like, as long as you're actually farming, you know, you're supporting the team, then you're doing your job as Vladimir, because you exist. You will always be able to pop down the Hemoplague, get that, you know, damage boost for the rest of your team. Even if you're not personally relevant, you bring a lot of value to the team. And, you know, the Malphite just does kind of the same thing, because by existing, by having the unstoppable force, by, you know, being that thing. But it's not like with the Victor that took control of the game. Like, they did more than just exist. They excelled. And, you know, props to Glacial. They recognized that super duper hard, banned it away just straight up. And now it's up to the Coyotes to find an answer to the Vladimir again, whether it is, you know, pick the Victor earlier, or pick, you know, something else in response to the Vladimir, or just ban away the Aatrox. Again, realistically, they're not going to ban the Vladimir. But it was an adaptation from Glacial to the Coyotes game 1 draft, and there wasn't a counter adjustment that worked for Coyotes. So now we need to go into game 3 with a working counter adjustment.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that you're mentioning when it comes to that Vladimir matchup, Victor had that lane priority the entire game. He was able to provide space for his jungler to really pop off during game one, and they were able to shut down the Evelynn. Evelynn spent a lot of time just kind of sitting around lanes, as we saw after the game one in the post analyst desk. And having those solo lane priorities is a huge deal here. I would like to see, instead of a Malphite mid, kind of a weird niche pick, very powerful in the top lane. We were mentioning during the loading screen that we wanted to see Darius mid and Malphite top, shut down this Aatrox, not allow him to really play the laning phase because of the sheer amount of armor that this Malphite can pick up, and just really deny Ender from being able to play the laning phase the way he wants to. But at the end of the day, they did send the Darius top, they sent the Malphite mid, and yes, AP Malphite does a lot of damage and is able to pick off some of his opponents, as we saw during the early to mid game, constantly diving Vladimir under turret, picking off the Lucian with that flash Malphite unstoppable force, in order to completely one-shot the Lucian. But once you get out of the mid phase of the game or so, Malphite tends to fall off. He's not the best of mage champions. I much prefer see him in a tank role, and versus the likes of a Vladimir, I think that even if they had stuck with their original lane matchups like they did, the Darius on the top lane, Malphite in the mid, Comet is enough to harass a Vladimir out of laning phase because of how weak his early game is. You should still be going tank. You should still be stacking armor, especially into the likes of the Aatrox, picking up, the Sunfire Aegis into maybe a Abyssal Mask or something like that, so that you can deal with the AP threat that Vladimir is, and you would take over the game so much better there. You'd be playing the frontline member. You'd be playing that secure engage for the rest of your team. Instead, Samira, the champion that I love with a dear heart, and I heard Valley talking trash. I'm gonna let her know what I think about that later. But with that, it's super difficult to have that frontline champion played as a mage, because once you give up his sustain, once you give up his tankiness, he becomes a one-shot champion that once he's blown his cooldowns, he's not going to be able to do much else. And into the likes of the Vladimir and Aatrox, who are these sustained bruisers, it's not the pick you're looking for.
Exactly. And I mean, there's a reason he's the most successful tank top laner right now, because you build him tank. So as we head into, this final draft here, game number 3, everything on the line here. If the Glacial Rising Phoenix team loses here, they are 100% eliminated from playoff contention. Whereas if they win, they will need to wait on the results of the Catalyst Blaze matchup later this week. And so as we're looking through here, Aatrox banned away, Lucian banned away, Coyotes just completely changing the game plan.
Yeah, they're definitely adapting to the new draft that we were seeing coming out from Glacial Rising Phoenix. Amumu or Alawi? It looks like it is going to be the Amumu ban coming out by the Dakota Coyotes here. And so is that going to leave open this top lane pick that we have not seen so far in the first 2 games of this series? And we know it's been something that the Coyotes have been afraid of because they have banned it so far this entire series. Nunu is going to be the first pickup for the Glacial Rising Phoenix, though, something we saw banned out in game 2 here. And because it wasn't banned out this time around, it looks like they're going to be adapting, trying something new, trying to keep the Coyotes on their feet and saying, hey, we won with that last draft, but if we switch it up this time around, are you going to be prepared for a completely different style of composition?
Does also mean that the Kale is available for either the top lane or the mid lane, terrorizing your local solo queue. So I imagine they'll be quite terrifying here as well. But I mean, they do need to build a little bit of a composition around it, right? Like, it's not a 1v9 just yet champion, at least not until you get super late. So I'm curious what else they get picked up. Ashe, I think, is super strong.
Oh my God.
So far, so good.
I'm loving this draft so far coming out by the Dakota Coyotes here. They're picking up the Kale, potentially being thrown in the mid lane since the Victor was banned out. I mentioned it during the pregame show here. Kale, when you go, the Omni Vamp build is so extremely powerful. You have so much wave clear, you have so much damage for yourself, and a surprising amount of sustainability with the Rift Maker, with the Hydra. You're just going to be able to be pumping out damage. You're going to be keeping yourself nice and healthy, and then you still always have access to the ultimate to keep yourself or one of your other carries or engages safe here. Ashe also being picked up, a form of engage for your team. Again, prioritizing bot lane as a sustain role, as a team player role here. They don't mind playing weak side, and so you're going to have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Every time you're looking to start a fight, you don't have any CC in the mid lane or the top lane, wherever this Kayle goes, but that's okay. You have the long range stun. Meanwhile, on the other side, Azir and Jhin being picked up. I do like to see the Jhin picked up here, something we haven't seen in the series so far. Kind of a counter pick to the Ashe. You do the same thing, but a little bit stronger of a lane bully. You're going to have more priority in the bottom side of the map, somebody who's going to be able to do a lot of damage. But the big question for me, and we've been talking about this Azir pick a little bit tonight, is going to be that mid lane pickup here. How is he going to work out, since we're expecting some buffs coming into this next patch, but how is he going to be doing on this patch?
So I'm always a little suspect of Azir's in these leagues, because very technical champion, right? Like, has a lot of different routes that you can go with just in, keystones alone. Does have a bunch of different build paths as well, and that was pre-patch when things were simple and figured out and defined. Now that it's post-patch and we have all these new items and you need to figure out exactly which one best fits your champion, there's a lot of things going into this pickup, and it can be very strong, but in one sense, it is a very feast or famine pick. And if you fall behind on the Azir and you're not on pace to be this really late game monster, it can be incredibly difficult for you to be, continually relevant in the mid game. Once you hit late game, you become, this absolute nightmare as long as you can maintain your soldiers. But I think the draft from the Coyotes are so good at countering what the Azir wants to do that he's gonna have a really tough time. Hecarim, another feast or famine champion that I don't agree with picking when there are other options, but it does have its upsides. It does have, high ganking potential, can be very disruptive in a team fight, and can just do a billion damage to your enemy AD carry as long as, you can actually get to them. So there is a lot of good stuff here so far for the Coyotes. They're continuing to build this very disruptive, this very heavy crowd control composition. I'm hoping they continue it in the support and the solo lane pick, I'll call it, because I don't know where Kale's going.
Yeah, and it's curious to see, even through the second ban phase here, we have Darius and Ornn being taken off the table by Glacial Rising Phoenix. Meanwhile, the South Dakota Coyotes banning out the Alistar and Shen. Alawi is still up and available for Glacial Rising Phoenix, and after the performance we saw from Ender in the last game, I don't want to know what this Alawi can do in the top lane. They banned it out both games. They let the Aatrox go through and were punished for it. But if they were so afraid of the Alawi in games 1 and 2, what is Glacial Rising Phoenix going to be able to do with that if that's what they decide to throw up into the top side of the map for themselves? Leona has been picked up for the South Dakota Coyotes here. Again, another great engage style champion. I'm not sure anymore how I feel about this Kayle pick, though, because you're leaving your backline very susceptible at the moment by leaving Ashe and Kayle alone to defend for themselves. Sure, you do have the Transcendence, you do have the Kayle ultimate in order to keep yourself alive here, but imagine a world where Hecarim and Leona fall behind. What is going to stop Ashe and Kayle from being picked off?
So word from production is that the Garen pick is actually Nami, and it is going to be that Alawi top that we have been warned about through the pick ban phase. Basically, one thing to note is that the Coyotes went from blind picking their top laner to now giving it full on counter pick, like absolute counter pick. So if they lose this top lane matchup now that they've literally thrown everybody else on the team to the wolves just to get a favorable matchup topside, then that is incredibly unfortunate for them as a team, because they've invested a lot by blind picking the Kayle mid, by making sure that they had a jungler before the enemy did, or after the enemy did, that was decently strong and didn't get pinched out. And so this Camille has to go absolutely legendary to be worthwhile, and into an Alawi, that's super scary, because any inch can turn into a mile either way in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we can hypothesize all we want about how that top lane matchup is going to go. I personally think Camille has a shot of winning that top lane matchup, but it's going to require some happy feet to dodge away from the Test of Spirits, and as well as some great reactions in order to use the Hextech Ultimatum in order to dodge away from that Lowy ultimate itself. If you're able to pull that off on the side of the South Dakota Coyotes, you have so much potential to pop off in the top lane here, but it's still a bruiser v bruiser matchup at the end of the day. It's still going to be two top laners who kind of want to get their first item or two and then start split pushing, start pressuring the opponent through their sheer strength in a 1v1. And at the end of the day, that top lane matchup is going to be extremely viable or volatile for both of these teams here. Meanwhile, across the rest of the board, I'm personally favoring the South Dakota Coyotes matchup here, or I should say draft here, surely because they have such a strong front line and team fighting potential for themselves. I would love to see the South Dakota team come in here, guns a-blazing, saying, we're going to call the shots. We have the Hecarim, we have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, we have the Leona and every form of CC that she brings to the tool table, and force these fights on their terms, really, is what they're looking to be doing here. They have Kale as backup. Ash is going to be playing kind of backline defender. Sure, you don't have an Enchanter or some kind of backline supporter in the sense, as we mentioned earlier, but I still think that if they're able to find a lead for themselves, or they're able to find the fights that they want, compared to the lineup we're seeing from Glacial Rising Phoenix, there's just so much more viability for choosing the fights that you want coming up by the Coyotes.
Very true. And I mean, it's such a scary composition. You know, if you get solar flared into, you know, Onslaught of Shadows, into Enchanted Crystal, like that is so problematic. Like that is best case scenario coming out of the Coyotes right now. And that is exactly what they want to be doing into these dragon fights. The disengage from Glacial, however, is pretty nutty if you think about it. They have the Azir wall, they have the Nami tidal wave, they have Curtain Call to try and dissuade depending on where it is. You know, we've all seen Worlds. We know exactly that you can put up a curtain pretty much anywhere you want. Alawi, great at zone control. If you can pick up a spirit and then pop the ultimate, like that is no longer a fly zone. Like everything's getting smacked down there. Nunu's in a weird spot because the snowball plus the ultimate can be various forms of zone control. They're just very much more all in that regard. But I mean, I think Glacial's disengage is all ultimate focused, so it's very strong. But if they whiff it, then the Coyotes get full control of that team fight and can really roll on through. Whereas if the Coyotes blow their load first and try and just get everything on the table and get that pick, super close, then Glacial can come in, get that disengage through, retreat, and lick their wounds and come back scaling that much harder.
It is a game of engage versus disengage here as we hop into game 3, an exciting final series of our playoff contentions here. Glacial Rising Phoenix winning game 2 and trying to keep their playoff dreams alive. They need to win this one in order to hit playoffs, or at least hope that Blaze loses so that they're able to make their way into the final 6. But ladies and gentlemen, we have an exciting final match here for you. Our first ever, I think, 3-game series here on 2-0 Tuesdays, so it's a record breaker here. Yeah, I'm at least on screen, but ladies and gentlemen, MacDo and Valley will be joining you in just about 2 minutes here, so do not go anywhere as we're going to be going into this final game of our final week of regular season here at Mid-League Excellency Esports. We will be right back.
Hello, Summoners. Welcome back onto the Rift for the end of this wonderful best-of-3 series. Glacial Rising Phoenix against the South Dakota Coyotes. It's game number 3, Valley. All bets are off the table here. The preseason has been crazy, and these two teams have found ways to thrive in it. The Coyotes controlling the game in our first match of this series, and Phoenix finding a way to put everyone in the backpack of Ender in the top lane in his massive Aatrox performance, carrying the team. This time he's on the Alawi. It'll be interesting. Glacial Rising Phoenix, they're back now up against the wall to keep their playoff hopes alive versus the Coyotes here, still looking for their first series win.
Yeah, the Coyotes. I feel like the Coyotes' composition, whoever drafts for them looked at, like, they went to Mobalytics and they went, what is S tier? What's a character we all play that's in S tier on this tier list? And they were like, Camille? Got it.
Bet.
Hey, Hecarim? Got it. Kale? It's been played in the mid lane. It's S tier in the top lane. It's A tier. We can play that. Ashleona? We got that too. So, I don't know, like, as far as compositional cohesion goes, if it'll work out, but I think Ashleona is a very solid lane. It offers you peel potential, which Tenor has shown he is very adept at. Logs back on the Ash means can play very safe, just farm it out. And then, as well, Kale and Camille, both very strong, very hard scaling. We like to see them playing through those soul lanes. And I think Hecarim, while he can be kind of a toss-up as a pickup, the reduced price of Trinity Force and the fact that he's going to get to that spike earlier means that he's going to be more powerful earlier, and they will have the ability to play through the jungle. So we'll see how it plays out. On the other side of things, there's a Nunu. That's all you need to know. There's a Nunu.
Yeah, once again, we see in this bot lane, French Fry and Intoxicate going to be hitting level 2 first. Are going to have a little bit of a tougher time looking for an early first blood on the Jhin Nami combination. But it's going to feel pretty darn good, I think, as we get into this mid game here. The mythic item's going to be doing so much for that duo. But Alex Pie in the mid lane, I think, is my player to watch in this one. Had the pop-off performance on the victory in game number 1. Didn't look too shabby on the Malphite, but was just not able to have the impact he was looking for on that type of pick. And I think the Kale is exactly what the Coyotes are looking for to kind of help their star mid laner really pop off in this critical game.
Yeah, and it's definitely possible. for him to get to that pop-off potential in this game, especially going up against an Azir, given that Azir not the strongest carry right now and has to use a lot of mana to deny Alex by any ability to actually step up to the wave. So we'll be able to scale pretty freely. We are going to have a pause briefly. Not sure exactly how long this one is going to take, but we are going to give you a little bit. I want to run down, at least I feel like I ran down the composition a little bit for the side of the Coyotes. But if we look at Glacial's composition, we're looking at, like I said, there is a Nunu, so you're going to have some heavy gank potential. It's a character that can do a lot and offer a lot of engage, but once you get to that mid to late game, it kind of falls off. It's kind of just there as a tank. So depending on the build situation, we could see if it actually finds value. It'll be hard to find solid ganks into either of these lanes post 6, at least in the solo lanes, I feel. So it's going to be more of a toss-up. I expect we'll see them playing around objectives quite a lot, especially with such a team fighting composition. And it really comes down to, can Ender be in these team fights and be in a position where the side of the Coyotes are coming into him again? We saw them do it last game. Let's hope they've adapted and they're no longer coming into the Alawi, because once you get a lot of people engaging onto an Alawi, that's when her ultimate is going to do the most damage. My only issue is they don't really have an answer for the split push.
Yeah, and I feel like this match will kind of center around this top lane matchup as well. We were talking about it at the end of game 2, Valley. It was all about these solo lanes for these two teams. And once again, I think Glacial Rising Phoenix drafting themselves a kind of composition where they want the Coyotes to hunt for them, to really look for these engages. And with the Hecarim, with Leona, they're certainly going to be able to do so. But who's going to be going on into the backline to deal with Alex? He's not going to be the one pulling the trigger this time around.
Yeah, and even if you do, say, get a nice Shuriman shuffle into the backline as we come out of that pause, you have that ultimate from Alex Pie, the Divine Judgment, to keep Logs or Alex Pie alive. And Tenderclef can always turn around, right? He can always turn around with Zenith Blade or with the Solar Flare to deny a lot of that engage and that CC potential, as we're seeing both junglers kind of hovering around the mid lane. I think Hecarim's actually going to try and get a double scuttle here. Could potentially get it, as Nunu is a little bit late to it.
Do you see Envion working his way down to the scuttle? 2 girls, 1 bush, trying to get the crab away from him. Does secure it, has got the consume, and is able to pick up that important little bit of gold. These junglers able to match each other very well so far in the early game. And not really a lot of early game aggression out of either of these players. I feel like we haven't seen a lot of pre-6 engagements, pre-6 hunts. It's really been once their laners are settled in the lane.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it a little bit in game 1 where they kept repeat ganking mid and failing, but otherwise it not really. No, we're not going to see that much early engagement from either of these junglers. Both kind of want to hit 6 before they do anything. Nunu would be the one to go for it, and 2 girls and 1 bush has been the more early aggressor out of the 2 junglers, but I think both are just trying to get up, as there's a stun on the Logs. He should just be able to walk out though.
4th shot at the ready. French Fry not going to be able to land it or fire it even. And I think Young Wolf has to be a little careful about trading with Ender early on. He's got that corrupting potion, has a lot more resource sustain, as he does miss the E there. That's going to make Young Wolf a little bit more comfortable about the lane, as there's already a little bit of a CS lead as these bubbles intoxicate such a solid job, especially in the early laning phase. We saw it on the Lux, a little bit on the Alistar. He was landing some really good pulverizes. Intoxicate trying to help out, do his share. This Glacial Rising Phoenix with a small gold lead because of their laners.
Yeah, I mean, there is a small gold lead across the board, but the CS discrepancies are not nearly as major as they were in previous games. We look towards that bot lane, it's only 13 CS up for the Jhin, which it's still a lead, but you're expecting that into the Ashe as it is. And it's not, you know, the 30 to 50 CS we had been seeing earlier, as 2 girls and 1 bush tries to get onto Alex Pie, but now Envyon's in the top lane.
Here's the Hecarim, Ender quite low. Does hit level 6. This could be the turnaround, but the first blood comes through, as that's going to be a kill. The Coyotes get what they look for.
Yeah, the leap of faith is not there in time. gets deleted by the Hecarim, and the end kill will go to Young Wolf. So the Camille coming online. Nice bubble in the bot lane, but the exhaust is down. Logs uses heal though.
The snowball coming in. French Fry looking for the floor shot. Gonna flash forward with the grenade. That's the damage he was looking for. As a little bit of Tokyo Drift is just gonna knock up Tenor-Clef as kills are traded between these two teams. In Valley, we might get once again quite the brawl on the Rift in the preseason.
Yeah, we might. I'm excited to see it. You know, maybe for the preseason, I should switch to being a play-by-play caster. I might get more of my points off.
We do see the Dragon started up here by Glacial Rising Phoenix. The Hawkshot is going to spot them out here, but the Consume Smite Secure picks up the first objective of the game. It goes over to Glacial.
Yeah, and you know, you're fine with that if you're the side of the Coyotes. You're okay giving up the early Drakes because you know that your comp comes online very well early on, right? You've got Kale, you've got Camille, and the Camille already has a kill. Kale is not really being denied any farm, is sitting at about probably looking at 7 to 8 CS per minute by the 10-minute mark, and it's going to be feeling really good about herself. So, overall, you're very happy. Alex Pie will be able to hit that carry potential probably around that third Drake. Young Wolf will be able to split push nicely. And Ender, he can try to deny as much CS from this Camille, but there's going to be a point where Camille is just going to win the 1v1 after a certain amount of time. And I think that'll probably be once you see them hit 2 items. I think the Camille build path is still pretty standard. You're going to see a Trinity Force into a Ravenous Hydra.
Right.
Not really anything changing there, just the components leading up to it. But I'm more interested in this bottom lane because Jhin is a pickup that we're seeing a little bit more of lately, and we're seeing lethality Jhin, and there's not as many tanks on the side of the Coyotes this game as there were maybe in previous games. You're going to see a Trinity Force Hecarim who's not going to be that tanky. Leona's really the only true tank, so that lethality will be doing a lot of work if he can get it going. The question is, at what point does Jhin fall off and become less useful?
Ender here gonna look for the trade onto Young Wolf with the gank coming in once again, but you gotta watch out for the tentacles. Ender is gonna be able to ward off the gank. Envion just coming in to help out is just gonna be able to walk away. I wonder here if Ender's gonna be able to get a solid freeze off. Young Wolf does have teleport available. Ender is going to actually decide to keep the wave quite even. Maybe force Young Wolf to try to stick around. Envion, though, still on the top side of this map. Could look for a regank. Ender, no flash available.
Yeah, there's no flash and no ultimate, but anytime you're 2 melees ganking an Alawi, it's not going to be a good time. I think Young Wolf tries to stick around to make sure it doesn't lose that much lane pressure, but I still think it's not going to be that valuable to stick around at this point. It's just going to lose any trade they take. Needs to get a back off and get towards that item spike of the Trinity Force before taking any further trades. I really don't think Hecarim should visit top lane anymore, right? I think you're fine to say, hey, I got you a kill. You're only about 20 CS behind. You're doing fine. We're just going to wait till you hit 2 items before we even try to deal with Alawi at this point. Force her to TP and come to us because we cannot take that fight as 2 melee champions. Instead, I'd prefer you look towards John Stamos or even the bot lane if you're Envion right now.
We do see this mid lane matchup has been kind of a farm fest. A lot of high numbers, 80 plus right now at the 10-minute mark isn't too shabby for either of these mid laners, starting to rack up quite a bit of cash, and that's pretty much exactly what Alex Pie is going to be wanting to do on this Kale pick. Look to dominate the team fight portion that's eventually going to be coming up in this match here. Little Spirit Pull does land for Ender. Looking to continue this trade. Young Wolf not going to back down, though. Going to use
2 girls, 1 bush.
Made him. The Nunu coming in for some additional help. The Leap of Faith coming in as well. And the Tentacles slam down. That's going to be a kill. Going over to Ender as French Fry quite low. Glacial Rising Phoenix, they lose a little bit in the bottom lane. The Azir joins the fight, looking for the shuffle. Alex Pie here as well. Ultimate at the ready. And both teams just going to decide to back off. Teleport being used. Alex Pie rotating up to the top lane. Going to be able to pick up some CS and save at least 1 more turret plate, I think. Could have fallen there. Young Wolf going to be quite behind at this point. A kill going over to Ender and a serious CS lead. as the mythic items are going to start coming online as we see the Eclipse completed for Jin.
Yeah, and that's the Young Wolf makes the common top lane mistake of thinking, I have a kill, I have a lead. This is not the case. Your champion does not do that, and you used all your utility up front. You did solid damage, but then you have nothing left going for you, and it is into a champion that loves dealing with people that are melee and like running into her. Alawi is able to turn that around, even if they hadn't been able to. 2 girls in 1 bush probably would have gotten the follow-up done. And overall, Young Wolf, instead of being patient and saying, hey, I'm playing weak side top until I get 2 items, overextends and pays for it. Again, it's still a nice gank, though. Envyon trades 1 for 1 in the other lane, so we're still at an even game state as far as gold. The only advantage is in the Drake department, as we see another Drake coming up, and all the priority is there. They can't really fight this if you're the side of the Coyotes. You don't have your item specs online. You just got Nashor's Tooth on Kale, and while that's going to be good, that's not going to be enough to make it so that you can take a team fight around the Drake this early.
Yeah, it is going to get spotted out here, but look at Envyon's positioning as well. That's going to be a quick second Drake going over. We're maybe looking at, isn't that a 22-minute soul potentially here, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen, but I doubt it will. The gank fails from 2 girls, 1 bush. Does have the Rift Herald if they want to use it at any time. It's just finding a lane to put the appropriate amount of pressure in right now, because we're looking at, an Ashe that is starting to get towards that finished mythic item. Is going to get rooted up here and is alone. Logs is in some hurt. Has flash, is going to have to use it, but that is a sloppy mistake. A little bit careless, as now Envyon is back in the top lane, and he is, this is a mistake.
Oh, the E does miss from Ender, unable to pull that spear, but the leap of faith may be enough. The healing coming through, but it's just not enough. Ender gets taken down. Young Wolf, a little bit more back into this game, going to be able to pick up, hopefully some turret plays, but Ender has teleport, is going to limit that gold swing just a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to use the Nunu ultimate in the bottom lane to drop this Rift Herald. Solar Flare comes out, but this tower will die, as this Rift Herald will just do enough to knock it down. The bot lane's going to have to walk away, and first tower gold will go the way of Glacial Rising Phoenix. They're going to be feeling pretty good about this. Alex Pie is roaming down here. I think this is dangerous for him, as they don't really have the teamfight potential. No Solar Flare online. Enchanted Crystal Arrow, though.
Oh goodness, that's Intoxicate getting locked down, gonna be able to flash away, and the Tidal Wave is enough. Another plan from the Coyotes foiled, but it's still not a large gold lead coming through from the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix, only 1,000 ahead as turret plates have been traded back and forth. We actually see the top lane turret goes down to just 2 plates remaining, and the Trinity Force is actually completed by Young Wolf, the Camille, right back in this game.
Yeah, and I'd love to see the a switch from the bot lane and Alex Pie. I'd love to see Alex Pie get sent into that bottom lane and just freeze the lane down there by his tower, and send the bot lane into the mid lane where they're going to have a tower to protect him. As Ender's getting ganked again, he's going to die again. Doesn't have the leap of faith, and he is, yeah. That is... So the reason Hecarim is an S tier jungler right now is because at 14 minutes he has Triforce and is very survivable. So like I said, I didn't want to see them gank Ender, but Ender is not positioning himself well enough to deal with these ganks and get solid leap of faiths off against them, and is getting punished for it. Now Young Wolf is sitting at 3-1-0 despite the CS discrepancy, has that first item, and it's going to start working towards the second one. So it's going to be feeling pretty good about themselves. The only person that's not going to have a mythic item on the side of the Coyotes as the final curtain comes out. Young Wolf will walk away.
As the Ghost is procced, Envyon looking to engage, does have the Onslaught of Shadows available, is going to use it to avoid the CC. Wonderfully played from the horse. French Fry going to have to take some time to reload, but already so low. The horse coming in. That's going to be a double kill going over to Envyon there. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Meanwhile, 2 girls, 1 bush getting locked down. The Ignite as well. Going to reduce that healing. Logs and Tenor, they survive the gank. Almost pick up a kill for themselves. As suddenly, it's a 1,000 gold lead in the favor of the Coyotes now. Things going their way in the top side of the map.
Alex Pie, who? I only know Envyon, as there comes the ultimate, as Alex Pie has the ult and flashes into a corner.
Oh no, he's stuck! Oh, he has nowhere to go. John Stamos picks up the solo kill.
He flashes to try and get away, but doesn't get past the Shuriman soldiers, and instead is just locked down between the turret and the Emperor's Divide and ends up dying. That's so unfortunate for Alex Pie there. It's going to be very nice for John Stamos. Is it enough to turn around the lead they've accrued in the top side of the map? Maybe, maybe not. It's about even in the game so far, and we are reaching about the 50 seconds until we're looking at the side of Glacial getting to Soul Point for this Mountain Drake. And that mid-tier 1 is low as well. So if they can knock down this mid-tier 1 and push their vision control a little bit further, they're going to be in a very nice spot as far as getting onto this Drake Soul. Zenith Blade misses, but Envion once more.
Ender is on the bottom side of this map. Could look to make a big impact in this team fight as all 5 members of the Coyotes are together. The pack is strong, as that's going to be Young Wolf Spirit pulled. Going to get locked down just a little bit. And actually, it does proc, so he's going to have to worry about these tentacles spawning. John Stamos, rotated from the top lane, is now here to support his team as they look to get onto Soul Point. Young Wolf, quite low, is going to try to look to get some health back for this fight. The Leandri's Anguish online for this is here. That's going to be another Spirit pull from Ender. That's going to be a lot of damage. They're looking for the engage. The Shurima Shuffle. John Stamos caught out. No one dead just yet. Alex Pie has to be careful. That's a lot of damage onto the kill, and he gets taken down. Young Wolf, meanwhile, on the back line. Nowhere to go. No follow-up. Logs gets taken down. It's a double kill for the Jhin. Glacial Rising Phoenix. They're going to move on to Soul Point.
None of the engage potential or ultimates were there for the side of the Coyotes. They don't have the Solar Flare. They don't have Divine Judgment. Enchanted Crystal Arrow not there as well. All they have is Onslaught of Shadows and no vision control. I don't know why you're even trying to contest that. After you lose that initial poke trade by the river, you just have to walk away and say, hey, we'll fight for the soul. Give us 5 minutes. We'll be back. Instead, they lose the fight. They lose the value. They're going to lose this mid lane tower most likely as well. And things are looking towards Glacial Rising Phoenix at this point. Kills were coming in well, but now they've fallen a little bit behind, and Envion looking for a little bit more than maybe he can bite off.
Oh, he's going to have to back off. Alex Pie with the teleport. He's in the back of the team. No follow-up, no flash, no... Oh, the ultimate does come in. He's going to stay alive for just a little bit longer, but the Shurima soldiers are going to slice and dice him off the rift. Meanwhile, a huge engage, maybe into the backline. John Stamos, he's not going to be able to walk away from the Hextech ultimatum. Envion just dealing so much damage, but a huge bubble coming through. Intoxicate. What a play there. The Deadly Flourish lands onto Tenor Clef. And it's Glacial Rising Phoenix. They like the tune of this song. They're making it work here. French Fry, a huge performance, a huge addition for the team. A huge upgrade for the bottom lane. They're becoming a carry lane for this team. And overall, the Phoenix, they're rising here in game number 3 with their backs up against the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's just mistakes coming in from the side of the Coyotes. They fail at the Dragon, and then they try to make a fight happen again, and it's only Envion and Alex Pie that are actually in the fight. Alex Pie barely gets Divine Judgment, but it's not enough. It's a kill with 1 item at level 11. You only have a Camille at 1 item. You finally have 2 items on your Hecarim, but you do not have the power spikes to be taking these fights, and you're not playing the map properly either. Your Camille needs to be in a side lane during these 5-minute breaks between dragons, between these fights. You need to be creating pressure on the outsides of the map, as the Emperor's Divide is going to miss, so John Stamos was going to wish he had that one back maybe. But overall, it's just mistakes coming in from the Coyotes. They can absolutely win fights against this Glacial Rising Phoenix team. They just need to be using vision control and prioritizing the right objectives and positioning correctly when these fights happen. Otherwise, they're never going to get anything, and they're just going to keep feeding into the pockets of Glacial Rising.
Right now, Glacial with almost a 4,000 gold lead, more in the neighborhood of 3,000. Alex Pie not picking up the Kraken Slayer, did opt for the Nashor's Tooth. 0-3-1 on the Kale. Not the performance we were expecting. A lot of talk from us here on the analyst desk, on the pregame show, talking about how strong of a pick it is right now. But when you're looking for the wrong types of plays, you still have to be positioning well. You have to watch out for the pick potential. And Valley, I think we actually get a little bit of a treat on our hands. The Collector has been picked up by French Fry. The
Ender?
watch for these executes, but the Leap of Faith, Ender does have the healing there.
Envion is
looking for the kill. The tentacles all over the place, but the shutdown goes over to Young Wolf. Envion barely survives that engage onto the Alawi.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very close fight. Alawi with the Gore Drinker is going to be doing a ton of damage and nearly at least trades 1-for-1. Instead, it is going to be a nice kill, and they punish it in the side lane well. But again, look where Camille is. They're on the Baron already at 21 minutes. They have a little bit of vision from Alex Pie, but now Camille and Leona are roaming up. Hecarim is nowhere nearby. This is going to be a really difficult fight to take.
Glacial going for the bold move in game number 3. They're looking to try to keep their playoff hopes alive as the Enchanted Crystal Arrow isn't going to stop anything. They zone the rest of the South Dakota Coyotes off of the objective, and they are coming up huge. Mountain Drake about to spawn in 50 seconds. Valley Baron Nashor picked up by Glacial Rising Phoenix.
I mean, if you're Glacial Rising Phoenix, give them the Drake. Give the Drake to the Coyotes. You don't need to fight for it. You just got Baron. Go put your Alawi in a side lane. Go put your Azir in a side lane. Use your Baron buff to get map control. Knock down that top tier 1. Knock down tier 2 in the bottom lane. And prioritize those objectives to standing gold, because that's going to scale you faster than getting this Mountain Soul Will. This is too much of a toss-up of a fight for me. I don't like it. They have the vision control and the map presence, but I don't know if they have the ability to just win this fight outright if it's played properly by the Coyotes.
They are going to have to run into the Alawi. Ender already trying to stock up on the tentacles as Tenor. Going to use the Locket of the Iron Solari already. That's a spirit pull onto the horse, but John Stamos is caught out already below half health. This isn't how the Glacial Rising Phoenix, this isn't how they wanted to start off this fight. Envion lurking behind them, looking for a solid flank. John Stamos, not a lot of healing. Ender gonna take a little bit of damage there.
Solar Flare and Onslaught of Shadows are online. They are available, but on the other side of things, you have new ultimate. There's the Onslaught of Shadows and the Divine Judgment.
Oh goodness, John Stamos is going to get locked down immediately. The Tidal Wave is going to buy time for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, Ender is caught between two teammates he does not want to be caught between. It's a double kill for the Camille. Looking to make this fight happen for the rest of his team. Gonna use Cleanse, gonna try to walk away, but Envion dropping off! The Starax gauge the shield. They're looking to make it work, but here comes the bouncing grenades, maybe. The Deadly Flourish does miss. French Fry with the executes. Here we go. The Jin popping off. Here's a triple kill. He has the 4th shot, looking for the perfect quadra kill. Is this the Venom moment for French Fry? Logs all alone. The Deadly Flourish gonna miss the Drake. It's gonna steal, maybe. No, the Drake decides to change focus. That's gonna be the pentakill coming through. Glacial Rising Phoenix make the fight work.
They take the fight, they take the soul, and they still have Baron Nashor, where it looked like he was going good for the Coyotes. It wasn't enough. They weren't there yet. The early Baron, the early soul. This game isn't over, but it might as well be, Mac, because they are rolling, and it doesn't look like Glacial Rising Phoenix are looking to stop anytime soon.
Baron Nashor, they've got the Mountain Soul. They've got to be feeling pretty comfortable, but it is only a 5.6k gold lead. Not ideal. As you were talking about before, Valley, a lot of standing gold on the map. They wasted a lot of time around that Mountain Soul. They do get what they want, but now it does kind of leave the window open a little bit. Glacial Rising Phoenix, that last fight was pretty darn close. Alex Pie on the Kale, still scaling. But overall, this Mountain Soul going to be huge. The amount of resistances they're going to be getting as these items continue to come online. 2 Girls, 1 Bush. I don't know if this Nunu is going to die at all in these fights.
Yeah, I mean, 0-0 and 12 with Sunfire, Aegis, and a Deadsman's Plate, and working with a Bramble Vest as well. Very, very tanky. And now it becomes very difficult as well, because how do you split push when you can't answer either of your side lanes right now? Right. Jin just deletes everybody with the Collector, as well as now a rapid fire cannon. He's just acquiring all sorts of guns, as well as he's got a sword in there somewhere. I don't know. It's a mess of weaponry in there for him, but it's still not done, right? Like, we're still looking at a Death Dance on the on the Camille. We're looking at almost a second item for the Kale, as she's 3 levels from 16. If they can stall this game out, it's definitely a very winnable game still for the Coyotes, but it's going to be incredibly difficult, especially with the added resistances they now have from Mountain Soul.
Additionally, John Stamos, 2 items on the Azir. French Fry, 10, 2, and 2. Look at the damage coming through. Alex Pie gonna have to burn the ultimate, but the shots are coming through. Ender's actually gonna be the one that finishes him off. Tenderclef does shut down the curtain call. Young Wolf picks up a kill on his fellow top laner. That's not going to be a big absolute 0, but nevertheless, they're looking to pick up. Is this the Shurima Shuffle? No, he's going to knock them forward, but the damage is still coming through, and the snowball slowly but surely making its way. John Stamos able to finish off Logs. It's a 4v3 now in the top lane for Glacial. They're going to wait for this next wave to roll in. And Vion went back to base, has a little bit of those home guards left, but the turret just knocked down so quickly. Ender, teleport available here, Valley.
Yeah, they have to give them the inhibitor. They'll just walk away at this moment and go towards this mid lane, because they have a minion wave pushing in. However, there is a solar flare going to be up soon, and a little bit of fighting potential if they want it for the side of the Coyotes, but Alex Pie is still in base, so they're going to lose 2 inhibitors here, most likely. It won't be 3 because of the second tower still standing in the bottom lane, but that's really well played by the Glacial Rising Phoenix side. They move around the map nicely, they win the fight, they take their patience, and the Coyotes don't know when to give up an objective when it's clear that they're not going to win a fight, and it is hurting them in this match.
The gold lead continues to grow for Glacial. This is going to be a huge back for them. A BF sword and a pickaxe picked up for French Fry, working his way towards that Infinity Edge. I think, I don't, maybe. What are items anymore, right? Nevertheless,
Fair.
Elder Drake going to be spawning in 2 minutes. Baron Nashor already available. You've got 2 inhibitors down already. Do you wait for the Baron? Do you go for the Baron here and try to finish him off that way? Or do you just go for that 3rd inhibitor?
I think the TP here is your answer.
The Azir is going to be able to melt down this objective. You got the new smite secure. And Vion quite far away. I don't think this Hecarim's going to get here in time. This is such a fast Baron coming through here. The Solar Flare is going to be able to do it. That's the objective secured by Glacial.
And it just feels like the Coyotes are lost. They're always in the wrong position at the wrong time this game. They have a solid composition that can win fights, but if they're never in the right position, if they're never fighting the right people, they are always going to falter and have a rough time. And now we're seeing them look towards this bottom lane. They have super minions in both the other lanes. They can just stack 5 here and push down these towers for free. We're going to come down to one last fight, Mac Dewey. I don't even know if it'll be around the Elder Drake. It might just be at the Nexus towers after this Baron push. And I don't know if there's any answers for the Coyotes at this point. They don't have anything that can really lock down or burst through this front line for Glacial Rising Phoenix.
And the Coyotes, they can't dedicate a lot of time to defend this bottom inhibitor. They've got super inhibitors rolling in 2 lanes already, 5 members strong with the Mountain Soul. Glacial marching into the base. They've got 2 cannons. They've got all the time in the world. That's going to be the turret knocked down as Ender snipes a soul. Once again, the bubble. Tenor going to have to flash away. He was in trouble there. The inhibitor now is the next target here. The Shurima Shuffle lands 2 members. Logs and Young Wolf able to flash away here. Meanwhile, Envion in the backline. He gets taken down immediately. Everyone just solo. Ender taking care of the entire Coyote pack. This is going to be the game. Glacial Rising Phoenix, they keep their playoff hopes alive. They move to just 2 wins on the season, but it could be enough to make it work. French Fry going to be finishing off the Nexus here. The team working so well in games 2 and game 3. They pull off the reverse sweep with their backs up against the wall. Valley, they stay alive.
They stay alive, and their playoff hopes do not die on this rift today. And while it wasn't the prettiest matchup, and I have my concerns because the Coyotes took them this far, they finished it off when it counted, and they are coming together as a team. There was definite teamwork, better macros in game 2 and game 3, and their drafts are solid. They have multiple lanes that they can play through. This is a team that could make a run, that could be scary, and could contest some teams in the playoffs should they make it there. We'll have to wait and see. Depends on what Catalyst Blaze does in their match later in the week, but Excellency will keep you updated with all those updates on our social medias, especially our Twitter, as we go forward throughout the week. So make sure you keep up with us there. And honestly, it was a good game, Mac. Both teams played incredibly well. We got to see a lot of action. We got to see some later games. We got to see some quicker games. Honestly, we got to see some hard carry performances. We got a little bit of everything, and that's what I wanted, right? I wanted to see the Coyotes put up some fight, even if we didn't think they would win the series, and they didn't end up winning. They didn't go down without a fight. They didn't just roll over, and that's exciting to me. And there's so much potential for that team as well. It's a disappointing end to the season, but they have a lot to look forward to going forward.
Absolute banger of a series to finish off the regular season. Just makes me so much more excited come playoff time. That's going to do it for us here in the casting booth, but we are going to head over right back to the analyst desk for some more post-game thoughts on this series.
Thank you, Mac Dewey, for that wonderful introduction. Game 3 comes to a close in an exciting best-of-3 series here for our last week of the playoff contenders regular season, whatever you want to call it, for Mid-League Excellency Esports here. And no better way to finish it off than with a pentakill on French Fry, the 80 carry for the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix, popping off in that final game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Jhin super duper early in the broadcast about how, it's a character that is going to start seeing play again just due to the meta and the item picks as they are today. And what better showing about what you can do with it, right? Like pentakill in the final game of the final series to potentially secure yourself a playoff berth as well. Like now everybody's going to be picking up your Jhin, and not for good reason. Like the champion can do very great things. They built around him very nicely. I feel that Nami keeps him alive in lane, doesn't, fall too prey early on. There is the potential for the Leona to just overrun you. Didn't quite happen though. And so the Jhin was able to scale. Then you have the Nunu and the Alawi just playing frontline, and you just get to do Jhin things.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we were talking about this Alawi pick, before the game, and then during the middle of it, you and I on the analyst desk were kind of breaking down how Glacial Rising Phoenix came to this solid victory. They had a complete map control almost the entire game. They're able to pick up all 4 of the Dragon Souls extremely quickly, heading straight towards that Mountain Soul. And a lot of that did have to do with the fact that they showed quite an impressive amount of macro this game, constantly being set up in the right position whenever these dragons spawn. Most importantly, Ender 524 always being around the neutral objectives when he needed to be there. And when you have the ward control, when you have this Alawi that's set up in the right position, it's extremely difficult to push into that team composition. You have a Nunu, Azir, Alawi, Jhin, all set up in front of the dragon, and if you have no vision, how are you supposed to be able to push into that? We saw, especially around that third Drake at about the 18-minute mark there, Ender chunked out 2 people for free using the Test of Spirit there. And so Leona and Camille didn't get to play that team fight the way they wanted to. South Dakota Coyotes still committed to the fight as if they had a chance to commit to it. And instead, what happened is you lose 2 of your engaged sources absolutely for free. A third gets picked off with the re-engage coming in by Glacial Rising Phoenix. And now you gave over the third Drake and Soul Point towards Glacial Rising Phoenix, purely off of the back of what this Alawi was able to do since she was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and I mean, the souls of this game were so important. You get so many bonus stats on people that just want them. You don't always have a perfect, soul composition, right? Whether it's, Infernal, Earth, Soul, or Ocean, Wind or Ocean, excuse me. But I mean, they had a pretty good one this time. They had both the Alawi building tank-ish, the Nunu building tank-ish. All of that just gets super accentuated by the dragons, and they got a super early soul. So they just were able to take that to the house. They had the bonus shielding, they had the bonus stats, and they were never going to die from that point forward.
Yeah, and overall, a very fantastic game 3 here from Glacial Rising Phoenix. We really got to give these guys some props. It's a bit of a toss-up on who we want to give MVP to. We did see a killer performance coming out of Ender 524 in game 2 there. His game 3 also solid, but it's hard to contest that versus a Pentakill versus the Jhin. For me personally, I want to still give it over to Ender. That man played the top lane phenomenally well. Sure, the first game was a bit rough. That Shen and Darius matchup is not a great matchup for this Shen whatsoever, and so maybe that's something to look at draft for future games, as hopefully with this win tonight that we're going to see a little bit more of them when it comes to playoffs. We do still have to wait, as we've been mentioning all night, on the Catalyst Blaze game to see how they fend themselves off. If Blaze is able to win, Glacial Rising Phoenix is out of contention. If they lose, though, honestly, I don't know how they play that one out. I don't know if it's a head-to-head, if it's a goes to whoever was on top first, or they're going to have to play a tiebreaker, but we will definitely keep you guys updated on whatever is going on there. But it's super exciting to see that Glacial Rising Phoenix was able to pull out a victory tonight, and, you know, maybe they make it into playoffs last second. That would be quite the comeback story.
Yeah, and I mean, it was nice to see the South Dakota Coyotes actually show up tonight too. You know, they had spoiler written in their eyes, like they were fiending for it. They were so close to getting that spoiler position as well. And I think this was possibly one of their best showings as well from what we saw during the season. So it's great to see that growth as the season progressed.
Yeah, South Dakota Coyotes unfortunately not able to find a victory for themselves at the end of the season, but we do have to give them massive props as well. They put up a good show tonight. As you said, they had spoilers written in their eyes. These guys made a great performance. Their game 1, absolutely commanding. Alex Pye, a huge portion of this team, really got to give him a shout out as well, because that man made the mid lane so difficult for the side of Glacial Rising Phoenix, and was putting on a killer performance game 1, even into game 2. Unfortunately, the Malphite pick just didn't work out at the end of the day, but they made this one such a close series, and that's what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen. We love to see these kind of close games. We love to see these teams playing their hearts out, still giving it their all, even in a situation for South Dakota Coyotes where they weren't going to have a place in the playoffs even if they won tonight. And I love to see that they still stuck it to the man, that they still tried their absolute best in order to try and pull out a victory for themselves. But Doctor's been running over to his office really quick here, as we do have yet another medical exam coming up from him. We have pulled over my personal MVP of the night, Ender, as we can hopefully get him in this call real quick here, and Doctor will be able to give him his diagnosis, or at least get a breakdown of how this game played out.
Thank you, Loud Thoughts, and thank you, Ender, for joining me here. I know I just pulled you in abruptly, so I hope you're actually there and ready to talk.
Yep, I'm here.
Nice, good to hear it. So you guys won it 2-1, potentially securing yourselves a playoff berth. And you were no small part in that victory tonight. You know, banned away game 1, banned away game 3. You know, what is it like playing around that type of attention?
Well, initially, I thought I wasn't going to get the attention because of game 1. I played so poorly. And that was probably, a whole lot of that was my fault. I don't have that much experience on Shen, but I wanted to play with the team, and that's what we decided on. But going into game 2 and game 3, I did feel like a very powerful force, just because I was able to play some of my solo queue champions, where since this is like a mid type of league, you're able to make more. You're able to take more opportunities when they step up wrong, when they make a wrong move. You're just able to get more solo kills. So I wanted to get in on my champions that I'm able to snowball the lead.
Yeah, I mean, you were able to get both of them. You know, Aatrox game 2, they let that up in the ban phase, yet they went for that blind Darius again. Not pretty typical, I would think, picking blind fighter top laners when, you know, your opponent has the opportunity to counter it.
Yeah, it's quite odd, but the Darius pick, I don't know, it's just interesting to me, because Darius isn't usually played in competitive matches that much. but I just picked Aatrox second game because I knew I wanted to, because I saw his mistakes game 1, and I knew that he didn't have the greatest laning phase, and I wanted to punish that.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly worked out for you. You popped off. I believe you went deathless, right? Like maybe 1 or 2 deaths. But overall, just really strong performance there. Heading into game 3, you know, you guys kind of stomped game 1, game 3. They try to give you the counter pick, saving you that last spot, but you know the Coyotes held that one deeper. Were you expecting the Darius again, or were you expecting to have to deal with a counter?
The way that the draft was set up, once we got into the last 2 picks on each team, we knew that they had first pick, so it's better to typically get the counter pick to the top lane when they have the last pick, so they were most likely gonna pick the support first. So the team wanted to get out of the way some of the top lane champions that they could pick pretty comfortably with the team comp, especially Ornn that we wanted to get rid of, because if they're able to engage on us with the large Hecarim Fear, big Leona ult, we don't want another Ornn ult on top of that.
Yeah, it's pretty disastrous there. I mean, the lane phase went pretty nicely for you. The Alawi, just kind of nutty. I mean, Alawi's always been a pretty decently strong champion, and your team got a pentakill. What were comms like during that play?
Comms? It was a whole lot of targeting on the enemy champions, because I wasn't with the team on that fight. I was alone 1v2ing incorrectly, but the way that I heard them talking, it was very productive, and they were aiming on protecting that Jhin very heavily, and I think that helped secure it. And then once the fight like boiled down, like 2 of us were dead, 1 of them was dead, but then they were really low. They were really intense on keep on going, which I think was the turning point that helped us win the game, which I commend my team for the decision making on that fight.
Nice. You love to see it. You love to see the teamwork coming out of a squad. You know, you guys are, like I said, potentially set up for playoffs. Are you guys even thinking about that, or are you just, you know, whatever happens, you know, we'll watch the Blaze game and then just go from there?
Right now, we're more excited about the win because we haven't won in a while, and this team has been going through a lot of changes. So I'm going to be honest, I don't think we're going to do that well in the playoffs. It's maybe possibility slightly, I don't know. But right now we're focusing on getting that team synergy together and figuring out how our team comps work, drafting, and just working it all out.
All right, cool. Do you have any final words for the chat, for the fans, for, you know, the other teams out there?
No.
All right. Well, thank you once again for coming on the desk. Congratulations on your 2-0 or 2-1 reverse sweep victory. And good luck. Hopefully you guys make playoffs, and hopefully we can see you again.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you guys. And that will wrap up our show here tonight. We want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Mid-League for Excellency Esports. That was our last final regular season match. We are going to be heading into playoffs next week, so you are not going to want to miss any of that action. Stay tuned to the Excellence Esports Twitter, where you can keep track of who will win out later on the week in that Catalyst Blaze matchup to see which team ends up finding their playoff berth. But again, we're done here tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week, and have a great day.